Chapter 1091. June Moxie was completely powerless. How can you accept this truth? Say it. As long as you say it, I can do it. I can definitely do it. June Moxie said in a low voice. Really? Then I want my Junyi back. I want my lover back. I only want this. Meow Xiao Meow screamed at the top of her lungs. Give me back my Junyi. Give me back my heart. Give it back to me. I want my Junyi, I want my husband, I want my man. I want to grow old with him, I want to bear his children, I want to never be separated from him. Meow Xiao Meow burst into tears and suddenly pounced on June Moxie, grabbing his clothes and screaming, Liar! Give me back my Junyi, give me back my happiness. Give it back to me, give it back to me. She used her hands to hit him crazily, tears and mucus flowing down her face, bringing with it a deep despair. June Moxie stood still, his heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. He, who had lived 2 lives, had never felt so uncomfortable before. He suddenly understood. He had always thought that he was Mo Junyi, and Mo Junyi was just another identity. As long as the 2 identities became one, everything would naturally be resolved. But now he knew that everything was just his imagination. Because the person Meow Xiao Meow fell in love with was Mo Junyi, not June Moxie. It had never been like that. Mo Junyi and June Moxie were 2 completely different people. Different personalities, different identities, different appearances, and different temperaments. A woman's heart was like this. Her heart was already filled with one Mo Junyi. Naturally, there would be no room for another June Moxie. If she were to suddenly tell her that the 2 people in her heart were actually one person, perhaps an outsider would accept it very quickly and even feel that it was nothing. But for Meow Xiao Meow, it was a totally different concept. Was accepting Mo Junyi the same as accepting June Moxie? This was different. This was equivalent to falling in love with someone else. It might sound ridiculous, but it was an indisputable fact. If it were Mei Shuiyan, Guan Qinghan, and the others, if they were told that June Moxie had never existed and that the one who existed was Mo Junyi, they would not be able to accept it either. Meow Xiao Meow was undoubtedly a very traditional woman. She was soft on the outside but hard on the inside. She could be as soft as water, but she could be as hard as fire. She could be as unyielding as fire. She would never allow her sacred love to be blasphemed like this. Nor would she allow the person in her heart to become someone else. For example, a woman was in love with Huang Feihong, but she was asked to marry Jet Li. Was it possible? Although everyone on Earth knew that Huang Feihong was a character played by Jet Li, this was a dead knot that was hard to get out of. Meow Xiao Meow cried sadly for a while until she felt weak and lost all her courage. She leaned on the table and fell asleep. Even in her sleep, her body twitched from time to time, and tears kept flowing out of her eyes. Such a blow was simply unbearable for a delicate young girl like her. June Moxie looked at Meow Xiao Meow, who was leaning on the table helplessly. He felt that his heart was in a mess, as if it was being cut by a knife. There was a sound coming from the door. It was Mei Shuiyan who walked in lightly. She looked at June Moxie and asked softly, She can't accept it? June Moxie smiled bitterly and nodded, then let out a long sigh. Isn't this all because of you? Mei Shuiyan sighed and looked at the sleeping Meow Xiao Meow and said, She is a good girl. Don't let her down. June Moxie stood up slowly and said in distress, I don't want to let her down, but… Shuiyan, what do you think we should do? Do what we should do. Mei Shuiyan rolled her eyes at him and said, I just didn't expect that we would still not be able to. She let out a long sigh. When Meow Xiao Meow came here, Mei Shuiyan had already discussed this matter with Guan Qinghan. The 2 girls thought about it from the standpoint of Meow Xiao Meow. The more they thought about it, the more they felt that this matter was very troublesome. When they saw Meow Xiao Meow's wholehearted love for Mo Junyi, the 2 girls cursed in their hearts. This girl obviously loved June Moxie's other identity, Mo Junyi, to the bone. So Mei Shuiyan planned for all the girls to make a move at the same time and put on a good show of all the girls being jealous and forcing June Moxie. With June Moxie's talent, he would slowly overlap with the Mo Junyi in Meow Xiao Meow's heart. Moreover, Dugu Xiao Yi would often remind them vaguely. Once this matter was exposed, it would get out of hand. Only this kind of vague reminder, this kind of thing, only Meow Xiao Meow herself could realize it and slowly reverse it was the best solution. If Meow Xiao Meow had realized that Mo Junyi might be Jun Moxie at that time, then it wouldn't be too difficult to expose it later. As long as the girls played around and slowly accepted it, it would be over. But they didn't expect that Meow Xiao Meow would trust Mo Junyi wholeheartedly. She didn't doubt him at all. The good show that was carefully planned by the girls actually became a complete self-entertainment. In the end, Jun Moxie had to reveal the helpless truth himself. In order not to embarrass Meow Xiao Meow, Mei Shuiyin drove Dugu Xiaoyi's group of super curious girls far away and let Guan Qinghan watch them. But now that things had developed to this point, even Mei Shuiyin was helpless. It was really too complicated. I'm afraid this will be very difficult to change. At least in a short time. Mei Shuiyin looked at Meow Xiao Meow with some pity and said, her current situation can be said to be that she hates you to the bone. To use an extreme analogy, her current situation is equivalent to us suddenly receiving the bad news that you were killed. It's completely unacceptable, or even more serious. After all, in our situation we can still take revenge on someone, but she doesn't even have this target. You destroyed her Junyi, destroyed her love. You, Jun Moxie, are her great enemy. But, although Jun Moxie isn't Mo Junyi is still Jun Moxie. She can't take revenge on the person she loves the most, and can't even face it. If I were her, I would also be at a loss. The only way is to wait patiently and let her think it through. Only when she thinks it through, can this matter be solved perfectly. Give her a little more time. In this situation, any action will only cause the opposite effect. But this little time, how long will it take? I'm really worried. I'm afraid that she will fall into a nightmare like last time. Jun Moxie sighed. If you just wait, this time will not change even if the heavens and earth turn old. If you don't want to leave any regrets in your heart, then you have to think of a way to change her. Let her go from deeply liking Mo Junyi to deeply falling in love with Jun Moxie. Let the latter replace the former. Mei Shuiyin turned her body and said indifferently, this is a long process. For such an unyielding girl, if you want to change her love, it's very difficult. It's destined to be very difficult. But no matter how difficult it is your responsibility. An unavoidable responsibility. You have to do it? Mei Shuiyin said heavily. This is my responsibility. I have to do it. And I have to do it well. Jun Moxie's eyes turned sharp and resolute. Go, capture this girl and bring her back. Something that even Mo Junyi can do, how can the evil monarch Jun Moxie not be able to do it? Don't forget, you still have a huge advantage, and that is, she is already your woman long ago. This matter is difficult to say and difficult to do, but there are still some shortcuts that can be taken. As Mei Shuiyin spoke, there was a hint of jealousy in her voice. Her beautiful eyes glanced sideways, carrying a hint of hidden bitterness. Meow Xiao Meow is already Jun Moxie's woman, but I, this big wife in name, am still a virgin. I even have to help him think of ways to pick up girls and win back the hearts of other women. What shortcuts? Jun Moxie asked anxiously. You're usually a smart person, but why are you so stupid now? Didn't I say it just now? Mo Junyi is Jun Moxie, but Jun Moxie is not Mo Junyi. You don't need her to fall in love with someone else and abandon Mo Junyi for you, Jun Duxiao. You just need to let her understand that the one who made the vow to her is you, Jun Moxie, and the two of them are the same person. Do I have to explain this so clearly? Mei Shuiyin snorted and said, you have to grasp this point yourself. Jun Moxie fell into deep thought. I'll bring her to rest first. You can think of a way to settle the misty mansion yourself. Mei Shuiyin rolled her eyes at him. Jun Duxiao kept on stuttering, and suddenly became smart. He said, Shui Yan, are you feeling a little unbalanced in your heart? They've already done that with me, but you haven't done that with me. AI, if you weren't so conservative, if you were willing to let go earlier, wouldn't we have already done that? Even now, we're already... This fellow was also strange. He didn't have many ways to deal with Meow Xiao Meow, or even Dugu Xiaoyi. But towards Mei Shuiyin, who was publicly acknowledged to be the most difficult to deal with, he had his ways. get lost. What nonsense are you talking about? This, and that, aren't you worried about Sister Xiao Miao? Mei Shuiyan's face instantly turned red. From the looks of it, Jun Dashao was just trying to find joy in the midst of suffering. Hearing that, he shrunk his head and sighed. Mei Shuiyan lightly carried Miao Xiao Miao and suddenly said in shock, "This lass is really unyielding. Why did she do this? Jun Moxie is not Mo Junyi, but Mo Junyi is Jun Moxie. Is there a need to be so stubborn?" Jun Moxie turned around and saw that the table Miao Xiao Miao was crawling on was covered in a large puddle of blood. This was definitely not a result of her vomiting blood unintentionally. She had purposefully used her Xian Qi to spit it out. Mei Shuiyan let out a long sigh and carried Miao Xiao Miao, only to hear the unconscious Miao Xiao Miao mumbling, "I only want my Junyi, I don't want you, I don't owe you anything. The exquisite lotus that you gave me, I spit it out. I don't owe you anything." This girl was actually unyielding to this extent. Chapter 1092. Jun Moxie only felt a torrential pain in his heart. Even with Jun Moxie's mental fortitude, he could not help but clutch at his chest and stumble back onto the chair. Miao Xiao Miao's words were like an unstoppable bolt of lightning, piercing deeply into his heart the moment it left his mouth. As if it carried an irresistible might, causing Jun Moxie's internal organs to burn. Jun Moxie sat on the chair in a daze, not moving at all. Miao Xiao Miao, this infatuated girl whom he had always rejected, had finally allowed him to open his heart and accept her after a series of coincidences and fortuitous encounters. At this moment he was deeply shaken. In the misty mansion, she had risked her life to protect him. When she was rejected, her heart was filled with despair, and she fell into a deep slumber. During the heavenly tribulation, she had cut her own throat to protect him from the heavenly tribulation, and the girl who had offered herself to him wholeheartedly just to please him, facing the domineering evil monarch, she had still brazenly protected her lover. Even if someone else was stronger than her lover, she would not say a single bad word about her lover. She would not doubt him, and would not waver in the slightest. It was as if in this lifetime, she only had one Mo Junyi. That was all. This kind of heart was undoubtedly very extreme, but this extreme was also extremely shocking. As someone who had lived two lives, ever since Jun Moxie's soul transmigrated to the Xian continent, his life had always been smooth sailing. Even if he met with some difficulties, he could rely on his own intelligence and strength to overcome them. But today's problem was not something that could be solved with intelligence or powerful Xian skills. The evil monarch who had always been wise and resourceful was actually helpless at this moment. Although Mei Shuiyan had given him a relatively feasible direction, to Jun Moxie, it was easier said than done. No matter how perfect the plan was, it was all just empty talk. It was more likely that it was just his own wishful thinking. Previously, he had also imagined that if he told Miao Xiao Miao the truth, she might be unhappy for a moment, but she would still forgive him and accept him because of their true feelings for each other. But he had neglected the fact that her lover was Mo Junyi, and not Jun Moxie. After the truth was revealed, to Miao Xiao Miao, Jun Moxie was definitely not her lover. He was the murderer who destroyed her love and killed the person she loved the most. She hated him the most in her life. Perhaps it was a little too much to say, but it was not far off. Jun Moxie let out a long sigh helplessly as he watched Mei Shuiyan carry Miao Xiao Miao out. He stood in front of the window for a long time and suddenly gave an order. "Go and see how the banquet is progressing. If it's almost done, invite Senior Miao Zhan, Miao Dao, and Miao Jian from Misty Mansion to come up." Clearly, Jun Moxie intended to eliminate all the consequences of this matter in the evil monarch manner. Before he finished, someone said from outside, reporting to young master, "The 3 Holy Lands Mo Wudao and the other sect lords are in the guest hall. They wish to meet with Manor Lord to discuss some important matters." Jun Moxie furrowed his brows and paused for a moment before saying, "Since that's the case, tell them that I'll go over now." Although Jun Moxie wanted to discuss this matter with Miao Zhan and the rest, but the short moment of contemplation made him calm down a little. The current situation could be said to be extremely strange. If he had contacted the 3 Miao family elders earlier, he believed that although the 3 of them would be rather unhappy about him sneaking into Misty Mansion in disguise, as long as he showed enough sincerity and promised that he would give Miao Xiao Miao a sufficient status, this matter would not be too difficult. In the eyes of Miao Xiao Miao, Mo Junyi had disappeared forever because of Jun Moxie. But to the Miao family, and even the entire Misty Mansion, Mo Junyi and Jun Moxie were merely 2 different names. As long as the person was still the same, there would be no problem. This was the reality of the superpowers, aristocratic families, and aristocratic families. If Jun Moxie had used this method, things would definitely develop more smoothly than before, and there wouldn't even be any ripples. If he used this method, the only one who would lose would be Miao Xiao Miao. She would have to bear the double blow of being deceived by the person she loved the most, and the betrayal of her family. But to the aristocratic families, even if Miao Xiao Miao was the most precious daughter of the Miao family, she was definitely not as valuable as an ally like the evil Monarch Manor. It was a pity that Jun Moxie's feelings for Miao Xiao Miao were real. He was unable to face his woman with a materialistic heart, so he chose to tell Miao Xiao Miao this difficult truth first. It was his true feelings that had caused this tragic situation. Right now, if the 3 Miao family elders knew about Miao Xiao Miao's current situation, they would definitely not give him a good attitude. And his mood was even worse, and the fire in his heart was extremely stifled. If a conflict broke out between the 2 of them, it would instead cause the situation to worsen. It was better to make contact with the 3 Holy Lands first. It would also be good if he could take the opportunity to vent his anger. Jun Dashao came to the small guest room and saw that there were only 3 people seated inside. Mo Wudao, Shi Ruochen, and Huyen Aobo. In Jun Moxie's eyes, the cultivation of any one of these 3 sect lords was not considered very high. Even if the 3 of them joined hands to surround him, Jun Moxie had the confidence to kill them in a single move. But for them to have the guts to dismiss their guards and sit here alone, it was already a great display of sincerity. This was undoubtedly a kind of attitude. This was the evil Monarch Manor, and this was the opening ceremony of the evil Monarch Manor. They were certain that this evil monarch, Jun Moxie, would not dare to do anything to the 3 of them. If the location of the meeting was within the 3 Holy Lands, or even the headquarters of the 3 Holy Lands, they might not dare to be so confident. They had the guts in the other party's territory, but lacked the confidence in their own territory. This was truly a strange phenomenon. Manor Lord Jun is indeed a man of great talent and bold vision. In just a short span of a year, you've grown from an ordinary aristocratic family that still had to tremble in fear to protect themselves in the secular world to a super force that can shake the world with a stomp of your feet. Although we are enemies, I can't help but feel impressed. Mo Wudao chuckled and said, because if it was me, I would definitely not be able to do it. This sentence of his was undoubtedly a sincere compliment, but it was also an opening line. With his status, anyone would know that this conversation had already started well for him to say such compliments. It was a pity that the timing of his words was too inopportune. Right now, Jun Dashao had a belly full of anger that he had nowhere to vent. Rolling his eyes, he laughed coldly and said, "Of course you can't do it. Because you are Mo Wudao, and I am Jun Moxie. You don't dare to compare yourself to me, so you do have some self-awareness." When this extremely harsh sentence was said, it almost caused Mo Wudao to spit out blood from anger. Mo Wudao's face was full of smiles as he waited for Jun Moxie's reply. As the saying goes, give a peach in return for a plum. Mo Wudao felt that he had already lowered his stance enough. Furthermore, he was only waiting for Jun Moxie's humility before he led the conversation to the main topic. But who would have thought that this fellow's attitude would be so vile? In this way, it seemed like Mo Wudao had failed to suck up to Jun Moxie and instead ended up being kicked in the leg. This kind of depression was naturally indescribable. Manor Lord Jun. The 3 of us did not come from afar just to congratulate the evil monarch on the opening of the evil Monarch Manor. Shi Ruochen frowned and said slowly. The meaning behind his words was undoubtedly that if it was just for the opening of the evil Monarch Manor, they could have just sent anyone else. There was no need for the 3 sect lords to come personally. And the truth was as such. Oh, so the three of you didn't come here to congratulate the opening of the evil Monarch Manor? This sect lord has been thinking too much. But I wonder why the three of you have come? Could it be that you're here to find a wife? June Moxie's reply this time was even more intense. It could be said that he was using all sorts of sarcasm and sarcasm. They were originally enemies, and there was no possibility of resolving the enmity between them. How could June Moxie let them off easily? Not to mention that they had a stomach full of anger. Even if they weren't, they would definitely not be polite. This is the Tian Fa forest. I wonder if the three of you have your eyes on the beast under the Monkey King or the Bear King. If the three of you are too embarrassed to speak, or if there is no suitable matchmaker, I, June Moxie, am willing to act as a mediator and act as a matchmaker. Even if I'm returning the favor of the three of you coming from afar to congratulate the opening of my evil Monarch Manor, although I know that I'm condescending, the three of you need not be overly flattered. I'm a very easy person to talk to. When the three of them saw that he was like a mad dog, opening his mouth to bite people and speaking nonsense as if he was speaking the truth, all of them were extremely angry. They had truly never seen a sect lord like you, without the slightest air of a leader. He was no different from a hoodlum. While sighing with emotion, they were also glad that there were only the four of them here. If their conversation was heard by others in the hall just now, where would the three of them keep their faces? They didn't even know to what extent the so-called finding a wife would be twisted by others. The three of them knew that if they continued arguing, it would most likely be a huge battle. Huyen Aoba's face darkened as he said, "Manor Lord June. The three of us have come here this time for the sake of the peace of the Xian continent and the peace of the world. The war for seizing the heavens that will decide the fate of the future is just around the corner. We can only work together to tide through this crisis. As for the grudges between our four families, it's not too late to discuss it after the war for seizing the heavens. With the world before us, a little personal grudge is not worth mentioning. Xian continent. The people of the world. What has it got to do with me?" June Moxie rolled his eyes and raised his eyebrows. Isn't this daddy also one of the people of the world? But when this daddy was being bullied, hunted, and killed, why didn't you righteous people step out to protect the people of the world? Now that this daddy's power has grown, and my wings have hardened, you want me to save the people of the world and the peace of the continent? Do I have such an obligation? The world? The world has never given me anything, so why should I give the world? Chapter 1093. The three of them couldn't help but be taken aback. They had never imagined that June Moxie would actually say such harsh words. If June Moxie's words were spread throughout the pugilistic world, the evil Monarch Manor would immediately become the public enemy of the pugilistic world, or even the entire continent. If it was any other day, the three of them would probably be overjoyed. They were just worrying about how to deal with the evil Monarch Manor, but June Moxie had actually given them such a huge gift. But the war for seizing the heavens was imminent, and the evil Monarch Manor's forces could not be lacking. If the evil Monarch Manor really refused to participate in the battle, it would be equivalent to announcing the defeat of the war for seizing the heavens in advance. The three of them had a feeling that this little thief, June Moxie, must have lost control of his emotions because of some unforeseen event, and came to vent it on the three of them. Otherwise, he wouldn't have lost his composure like this. It was a pity that the timing was not right. Otherwise, it would be a great opportunity to eradicate the evil Monarch Manor. But now, they could only sigh helplessly. Coming here to discuss official matters with this fellow today was like playing the lute to a cow. There would definitely not be any results. If they continued to discuss, then there would really be no room for negotiation. There would definitely not be any progress, and the discussion would only end in failure. But once the discussion broke down, no one could bear the consequences. This fellow was like a firecracker, exploding at the slightest touch. He was even a firecracker with a huge amount of explosives. Once ignited, it would definitely explode to death. Since Manor Lord June is not in a good mood today, then we can discuss it another day. This matter concerns the lives of the world and the future of the continent. We cannot be careless. Saying that, the three of them stood up and bade farewell. Who told you that I'm not in a good mood? My mood is very good. Especially good. June Moxie glared at them, looking as if he was about to kill them. The three of them pretended not to hear him, treating it as if this fellow was farting, and left on their own. You can discuss it as you like? You can't discuss it as you like? How can there be such a good thing in the world? To tell you the truth, after today, this daddy won't have the time to entertain you anymore. Discuss. Discuss your granny's head. At this moment, June Dashao had a belly full of anger, but nowhere to vent it. He felt his palms itching, his throat burning, his heart racing, and his blood boiling. It was as if he had to kill a few people to calm down. Glaring at the backs of the three people, he jumped up and roared. It was as if he was saying, "Why don't you talk back? If you dare open your mouth, I'll kill you." The self-restraint of Mo Wudao and the other two was truly exceptional. They actually pretended not to hear anything and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. June Dashao finally vented some of his anger after cursing and swearing. Plopping down on the tea table, he picked up the teapot and gulped down half of it. Suddenly, he heard someone reporting, "Young Master, Zhan Wu Feng of the Zhan family from the Misty Mansion requests an audience." "Let them in." June Moxie slammed the teapot on the coffee table, squinted, and crossed his legs. "Lord Monarch?" The moment Zhan Wu Feng brought the two Saint Emperors of the Zhan family in, they saw this evil monarch sitting on the tea table like a king, crossing his legs and looking at them in a frivolous manner. It was as if he was the king of the forest, a lion looking at three wild rabbits. "HM? Is this person really the evil monarch from the main hall? His aura and demeanor are completely different. Don't tell me it's someone else pretending to be him?" The experts of the Misty Mansion Zhan family, please take a seat." June Moxie forced a smile on his face, but he was pondering in his heart. This time, the lineup from the Misty Mansion seemed a little strange. Miao Zhan, Miao Dao, and Miao Jian were already enough. But what were these people from the Zhan family doing here? It seemed a little redundant, right? Could this be Miao Jingyun's plan to kill with a borrowed knife? But they didn't say it out loud. Zhan Wu Feng does not dare to accept Manor Lord's praise. "Manor Lord June, this Zhan has come here this time to discuss the possibility of our cooperation." Zhan Wu Feng furrowed his brows slightly. He didn't know whether he should stand or sit, and his heart was filled with awkwardness. This evil monarch's way of treating his guests was truly strange. To actually sit on the coffee table himself, then what do you expect us guests to do? It's not respectful enough to stand, but once we sit down, wouldn't we be admitting that we're a head shorter than you? The two holy emperors behind him revealed looks of anger. This June Moxie truly did not know any etiquette. Cooperation? June Moxie tilted his head. What kind of cooperation? Zhan Wu Feng felt as if he had swallowed a fly. He had taken the initiative to seek cooperation with June Mo Xie. This was already giving him a lot of face. But who would have thought that this fellow would actually be so arrogant? That attitude, it's as if my Zhan family is trying to curry favor with him. Zhan Wu Feng had stayed in the Misty Mansion for many years. Although he had heard that this evil monarch was an extremely powerful character, he didn't know as much as he did in the outside world. This evil monarch's fame and reputation was something that one could not feel directly from just listening to the rumors. Furthermore, the people in the Misty Mansion all had a high and mighty attitude towards the Xian continent. Even the three holy lands were not in their eyes. And this kind of thinking was especially true for the Zhan family, who had the highest status in the Misty Mansion. Thus, although Zhan Wu Feng was surprised by the strength of this evil monarch, he did not think much of it. The only thing that caught his eye was June Moxie's age. He had quite a bit of room to grow, and it was convenient to borrow his strength. Even if they really wanted to cooperate with the evil monarch manor, it still depended on the future. If one day the evil monarch manor's strength grew and completely suppressed the three holy lands, then they would naturally join forces to the end. But if the evil monarch manor's situation was not good, and they fell into a disadvantageous position against the three holy lands, then the Zhan family could even secretly join forces with the Holy Lands to completely destroy this evil monarch's strength in the shortest time possible. Then, they would receive him into the Misty Mansion, and he would become part of the Zhan family's strength, the topic of cooperation is naturally the vast space of the Xian continent. In other words, our Zhan family will do our best to help you replace the 3 Holy Lands and sit firmly on the position of the hegemon of the continent. Zhan Wufeng said lightly. He was confident that this sort of temptation, to a hegemon like Jun Moxie, was definitely an irresistible temptation. Your offer is really generous, so generous that it's hard for me to refuse. But, since it's a cooperation, both sides should benefit each other. What do I need to pay in return? Jun Moxie's expression did not change as he asked lightly. Don't tell me that your Zhan family is willing to let me rule the world unconditionally just because you see that I'm pleasing to the eye, while you don't want anything in return. Manor Lord's thoughts are not wrong. We naturally have our own motives. Zhan Wufeng looked at Jun Moxie's expression and slowly smiled, as if he could already see through Jun Moxie's heart. Tell me about it. It's just a very simple request. We need some resources unique to the Xian continent. Manor Lord, you will be responsible for providing them. And these resources will only be provided to the Zhan family. Zhan Wufeng's eyes narrowed as he smiled. Only provided to the Zhan family? Does this mean that it cannot be given to the Miao family? Jun Moxie suddenly smiled faintly. There was an inexplicable meaning in that smile. His right hand seemed to subconsciously rub his nose, and he used 3 fingers to rub his chin before putting it down again. It's not just limited to the Miao family. Apart from the Zhan family, all the other powers in the Misty Mansion are also included in this restriction. After all, the 2 parties involved in this cooperation are the evil Monarch Manor and our Zhan family, and not the Misty Mansion. Zhan Wufeng narrowed his eyes and Lengling smiled. To put it more simply, it's easier for everyone to be honest. The Zhan family will help Manor Lord to dominate the Xian continent, and Manor Lord will help our Zhan family to dominate the Misty Mansion. To put it bluntly, that's what it's all about. Can I understand it this way? Your Zhan family wants to make use of these resources to defeat the current ruling family of the Misty Mansion, the Miao family, in the struggle for power in the Misty Mansion? And you can use these resources to increase the Zhan family's influence in the Misty Mansion, ultimately forcing the Miao family to abdicate, allowing your Zhan family to become the new ruling family of the Misty Mansion, or even completely control the entire Misty Mansion. Jun Moxie nodded his head slowly. And the things that you want this sect to provide, the Misty Mansion either doesn't have them at all, or only has a very small amount of them. In any case, it's not enough to satisfy the basic requirements of the Misty Mansion, and these things can only be provided in the Xian continent, right? In other words, without these things, the Misty Mansion will not be able to maintain itself to a certain extent? That's right. That's indeed the case. Zhan Wufeng didn't expect this youth's mind to move so quickly. After thinking for a moment, he nodded his head in agreement. So, no matter which family in the Misty Mansion obtains these things, they will be able to use it as a foundation to gain control of the Misty Mansion. Jun Moxie's face darkened. But I think that these things are not so easy to obtain. Most likely, only those with a certain level of strength would be able to obtain them. Otherwise, you wouldn't be cooperating with the 3 Holy Lands. Because before this, only the 3 Holy Lands are filled with experts. Manor Lord's judgment is correct. Zhan Wufeng's eyes narrowed. At this moment, Zhan Wufeng finally began to view Jun Moxie's intelligence with great importance. The sharpness of this youth's mind and the accuracy of his judgment was truly shocking. It's still too early to say that my judgment is correct. I think that the thing that the Misty Mansion lacks is something that even an invincible expert would not be able to obtain too much of in one go. And it could be that there's only so much of it every year, or it could be that its quality is so special that it can only be obtained within a certain period of time during its growth process. This would require someone to guard the place for a long period of time so that it can be obtained at any time. Or perhaps it could be obtained through continuous efforts over a long period of time. Am I right? This time, Zhan Wufeng did not open his mouth to speak. Instead, he fell silent. But in his heart, huge waves were surging. This Jun Moxie's analytical abilities were truly frightening. If they could obtain a lot of it in one go, then the Misty Mansion would be able to obtain enough to last for tens of thousands of years. From then on, they would be free and unfettered, no longer having to worry about being strangled by others. But since they couldn't, then there must be some special reason behind it. In that case, the deduction that June Moxie had made earlier could only be one of two reasons. Once this matter was revealed, it was naturally not surprising at all. But to be able to deduce it the moment he heard of this matter required an extremely sharp mind. Not even the slightest bit off. Lightning flashes and thunder rolls, torrential rain pours down, I can't help but recite a poem. Ah, what a heavy rain, what a fierce and ferocious rain, ah. And so, an unknown brother raised his eyelids and said, Idiot. Chapter 1094. And there's a very important point that I might have overlooked. The location of this item should be somewhere within the three Holy Lands. Since it's an important item that's connected to the Misty Mansion, it's definitely classified as a top secret by the three Holy Lands. That place is definitely not a place that outsiders are allowed to enter. Even if it's the people from the Misty Mansion, there's no exception. Or rather, the people from the Misty Mansion are the most guarded against. So you can only wait for the three Holy Lands to send it out. But you can't go in and take it yourself, much less snatch it. Otherwise, your Misty Mansion could have just sent people over. With your relationship with the three Holy Lands, why wouldn't they allow it? But right now, it's their people who are doing it. They're only providing you with this item. This means that the three Holy Lands can provide this item. But the location of that item is the most important. So the most important thing is not the item, but the location. June Emosie's eyes were deep and unfathomable like the waters of a deep lake. No wrong. Jean Wu Feng sucked in a deep breath. These two short words were said with some difficulty. He was originally very relaxed, thinking that he had a lot of bargaining chips in his hands. No matter what, he would be able to maintain the upper hand in the negotiations. But as June Moxie deduced the entire situation with just one sentence, his mood also slowly became heavy. Was it a blessing or a curse to cooperate with this demon-like evil monarch? With this kind of intelligence, even if he lost in the battle with the three Holy Lands, who in the Jean family of the Misty Mansion would be able to control him? Would they be nurturing a tiger and inviting calamity? Since this item is so important to the Misty Mansion, and this location is also highly valued by the three Holy Lands. If I want to obtain this item and cooperate with you, I'll have to uproot the three Holy Lands for this to be possible. Then, both sides will fall into a deadlock that will not rest until one side is dead, right? June Emosie said solemnly. That's right. Jean Wu Feng nodded, cold sweat pouring down his forehead. It seemed like he didn't know how to say anything else other than not bad. With the strength I possess now, I already have the qualifications to be on equal footing with the three Holy Lands. Even though they were not as powerful as the three great Holy Lands under the Heaven Saint Palace, they were stronger than any one of them. In the worst-case scenario, it won't be a problem for both sides to suffer. June Moxie continued slowly. However, having such strength is one thing, and truly shedding all pretenses of cordiality is another matter. Once a full-scale war breaks out, it will definitely be a continuous and endless battle. It will not stop until one side is completely annihilated. The Jean family wouldn't have thought of this, right? June Moxie's eyelids twitched as he raised his head slightly. Two sharp eyes shot towards Jean Wu Feng's face like lightning. In that gaze, that majestic might actually cause Jean Wu Feng to involuntarily take a step back. Naturally, we have thought about this in detail. In order to show our sincerity, if the evil Monarch Manor really starts a war with the three Holy Lands, we will use all the strength of our Jean family to assist you. I believe that this condition is sufficient to show our sincerity. Jean Wu Feng took in a deep breath and said resolutely, Sufficient sincerity? When the war breaks out, our evil Monarch Manor will join hands with Tian Fa Forest. If we sacrifice everything, we will definitely be able to destroy any one of the three Holy Lands in the shortest time possible. They could even use their remaining strength to heavily destroy the other family. But when we attack the third side, the Heaven Saint Palace will definitely appear to stop us. The first and second side, They might not be able to react in time due to the suddenness of the situation. But no matter how fast we move, even if the best result is, we will only be able to destroy two sides. And the moment the Heaven Saint Palace makes their move, even if we use all our strength, we still have no chance of victory. June Moxie's face turned cold. But at that time, it will already be impossible for both sides to stop. The 10,000 years of heritage of our ancestors to be destroyed by our evil monarch manner. No one will be able to tolerate this. This enmity and hatred is already irreconcilable. Furthermore, so many of our juniors have been killed by me. Even if the people of the Heaven Saint Palace have the magnanimity of saints, they will not be able to accept such an ending. Only death can resolve this stalemate. With the current strength of the evil monarch manner, it will be very difficult for us to create a situation where both sides are heavily injured. The most likely outcome is that they will be heavily injured, and we and Tian Fa Forest will be completely annihilated. The strength of our evil monarch manor is simply too little. Compared to those old monsters of the Heaven Saint Palace who have lived for thousands of years, there is still a considerable gap. This is the accumulation of countless years. I believe that you all have already thought of such an outcome, right? Or perhaps, this is a part of your entire plan. June Moxie looked at Zhan Wu Feng with an interesting gaze. How is this possible? I've already made it clear that the moment the war breaks out, we will naturally send out our full support. We will definitely not sit by and watch. This is the basis of our cooperation. Zhan Wu Feng hurriedly retreated 2 steps and argued. But I only believe that you will definitely not make a move at the start of the war. June Moxie shook his finger and smiled lightly. There's no need to defend yourself. Because even if you do, I will not believe it. Perhaps you will indeed not sit by and watch the tigers fight, but you will still wait until the end of the war before you will truly charge out. With the momentum of a thunderbolt, you will settle the entire situation. Destroy the Tian Fa Forest and the evil monarch manor, and wipe out the 3 holy lands. Or even destroy the Heaven Saint Palace, whose strength is not at its peak. At that time, I believe that in the entire Xian continent, there will no longer be any superpower that can go against the Zhan family. Thus, the Zhan family will dominate the entire Xian continent. Don't say that I am gauging the heart of a gentleman with my own mean measure. I will think that you are insulting my intelligence. And don't say that you do not have such plans. Because if you say that, I will think that all the ancestors of the Zhan family are idiots. Zhan Wu Feng was about to say something, but he was immediately stopped by June Moxie. Since you have already dominated the Xian continent, then that mysterious substance will naturally fall into the hands of your Zhan family. At that time, your Zhan family will be able to do whatever you want in the Misty Mansion. That's equivalent to 1 inside and 1 outside, and both spaces will fall into the hands of your Zhan family. So your Zhan family wants to be the biggest winner in the end. If everything goes according to your plan, you still have a high chance of success, at least 80%. Zhan Wu Feng was completely stunned, because even he himself had never thought of all this. Even he himself only knew the part of the plan that June Moxie had mentioned earlier. As for how to proceed from here on, it was left to Zhan Luanhui, Zhan Wu Yun, and a few others to plan. But according to the development of the continent, if everything went according to the Zhan family's plan, if they did not use the method that June Moxie had mentioned, then the entire Zhan family would really be a bunch of idiots who wouldn't want to take such a huge advantage. Whoever didn't would be an idiot. Besides, Zhan Wu Feng knew his own family very well and understood the way his family did things. It was completely possible for him to do such a thing. But this Zhan Wu Feng came here this time with sincerity to discuss the cooperation between our 2 families with Lord Monarch. If Lord Monarch has any doubts about the cooperation method that I have proposed, you can suggest another direction, and the Zhan family will try our best to cooperate with the evil Monarch manor. Right now, it's clear that the relationship between Lord Monarch and the 3 holy lands is already hard to reconcile. And in the Misty Mansion, the Miao family is more inclined to continue the cooperation with the 3 holy lands. At most, they will not help either side. Only our Zhan family can possibly stand on the side of the evil Monarch manor. Jean Wu Feng said softly. That arrogant and condescending attitude from before had long disappeared. But this person's will was still strong, and even in such a situation he was still able to speak with assurance. And what you said is also true. If the Jean family really has the sincerity to cooperate, let me consider it carefully. Jun Moxie used his finger to lightly tap his head, narrowing his eyes. Oh, I understand. Your Jean family might be sincere in cooperating with me. But this sincerity is only limited to me alone, and not the entire evil Monarch manor. Is that so? Jean Wu Feng instantly felt cold sweat drenching his back. Behind him, it was already wet. His clothes were stuck tightly to his back, and the cold wind blew in through the window. Jean Wu Feng only felt a chill and an indescribable discomfort. But why do you want to cooperate with me? Because you want to deal with the Miao family. Jun Moxie raised his head. At this time, he finally guessed the Jean family's intentions, and it was based on his own thoughts. This is simply ridiculous. The matters of our Misty Mansion are internal affairs. How can Lord Monarch interfere? Jean Wu Feng forced himself to remain calm. Lord Monarch, where did these words come from? Really ridiculous? Is there really no need for me to interfere? I'm very young, and I'm not even a few years older than that prodigy with the free and natural physique from the Misty Mansion. But my cultivation is at least 10,000 times higher than his. The moment he said the words free and natural physique, Jean Wu Feng's face instantly changed. His eyes widened as he stared at Jun Moxie, as if he was looking at a monster. Jun Moxie laughed mockingly. The speed of improvement of the free and natural physique's Shen cultivation is said to be unparalleled, far surpassing the imagination of ordinary people. If the other families in the Misty Illusory Manor were to bear with it and wait for the free and natural physique to fully mature, they would definitely be able to wrest back the control of the Misty Illusory Manor from the hands of the Jean family. And it is precisely because of this that if the Jean family were to make things difficult for them, and the other families would see that things are not going well, or that a rash resistance would result in both sides suffering losses, or even a situation where both sides would perish, perhaps they would choose to compromise and give the Jean family a complete Misty Illusory Manor, hoping that one day they would be able to wrest back a complete Misty Illusory Manor. But if I assist the Jean family, we can effectively suppress that prodigy with the free and natural physique. I believe that no matter when, he will not be able to make a comeback. This way, it would be equivalent to cutting off all the hopes of the other 7 families. As Jun Moxie said this, he suddenly furrowed his brows and shook his head. No, that's not right. If that's really the case, the other 7 families do not lack intelligent people. I'm afraid that they would retaliate with all their might. With 7 against 1, the Jean family would lose more than they gain. Chapter 1095. That's right, why would our Jean family do such a foolish thing? Jean Wu Feng's heart was already trembling. That's right. So that's how it is. Jun Moxie ignored Jean Wu Feng's words. Instead, he was deep in thought. Suddenly, his furrowed brows relaxed, and he clapped his hands together, letting out a crisp sound. That's why you guys proposed such a condition earlier, and even promised to help me. If I really went against the Heaven Saint Palace to the point where both sides suffered heavy losses, you guys would definitely think of a way to protect my life. But to announce to the public that Jun Moxie is already dead. This way, there will be no more problems, and all the worries will be gone. With the free and natural physique prodigy in the hands of the other 7 families, and without an opponent like me who can threaten them, they will naturally choose to compromise and take a step back. And in that case, all the goals of your Jean family would have been achieved. As long as you don't slack off and continue to accumulate your strength, coupled with me helping you deal with that free and natural physique person, everything would really be within your grasp. Jun Moxie smiled lightly. What a truly impressive chain of plans, one linked to the next. First, using the allure of being a supreme ruler of the world to lure this inexperienced but shockingly strong kid like me into a trap. I only need to take a step out, and everything else would be completely logical. Even if I realized it and wanted to turn back, I would have no choice but to follow this unstoppable tide, all the way until you guys brought me into the Misty Mansion, completely under the control of your Jean family. Naturally, all my subordinates outside, all my family members, including all the Shen beasts in the Tian Fa forest, will all die. This will make it even more convenient for you guys to control the continent. Even if I saw through this afterwards, I had to obediently submit to your Jean family for protection. Jun Moxie chuckled and clapped his hands, praising sincerely. Your Jean family is truly filled with geniuses. Such an exquisite chain of arrangements was truly marvelous. Especially the person who designed this move of driving the tiger to swallow the wolf, the fisherman reaping the benefits, was a genius among geniuses. Even I can't help but admire him. As long as he takes one wrong step, there will be no turning back. Manor Lord Jun is thinking too much. Zhan Wufeng could clearly hear the cold sweat on his forehead dripping onto the ground, but he still forced himself to continue. If the Heaven Saint Palace really goes all out, our Zhan family might not be able to deal with them even if we go all out. Not to mention rescuing you safely from their hands? Manor Lord Jun's words are really thinking too highly of our Zhan family. Although the Zhan family has never been one to belittle themselves, they are not arrogant to this extent. No. You can do it. You can definitely do it. Jun Moxie stretched out a finger and wagged it slowly. Because in this arrangement, you can watch as the evil Monarch Manor and the Tian Fa Forest forces are destroyed, but you will definitely not sit by and watch as I, the most valuable person, die. So you will definitely think of a way to save me. With regards to this, your Zhan family only needs to send out a single person to accomplish this perfectly. I even believe that with that person's shocking strength, even the person with the highest authority in the Heaven Saint Palace would not be a match for him. Wanting to rescue me from their hands and flee far away is a very simple matter for this person from your Zhan family. Lord Jun must be joking. There is no such person in the Zhan family. Zhan Wufeng said stubbornly. Right now, his throat was dry, and his heart was racing. There was indeed one such person in the Zhan family. But this was the greatest secret of the Zhan family, a secret that only the core members of the Zhan family had the right to know. If Jun Moxie had even guessed this, then Jun Moxie was simply too terrifying. How could Zhan Wufeng know that Jun Dushao had not only guessed the existence of that person, he had even seen that person long ago? Zhan Wufeng, as the younger brother of the family head, do you really not know that there is such a person in your Zhan family? Jun Moxie smiled mysteriously. Do you need me to remind you? Manor Lord Jun, please enlighten me. Zhan Wufeng's face instantly turned into an innocent, indignant, and aggrieved expression. This Zhan is completely ignorant of the plans and arrangements that Manor Lord Jun is talking about. Our Zhan family will definitely not do such a despicable and shameless thing. We came here with the greatest sincerity, but Manor Lord Jun's words are the greatest humiliation to our Zhan family. Humiliation is better than losing your life. Until now, do you still think that I'm bluffing? Regrettably, I truly know of that person's existence, and I'm even more clear of his identity. Zhan Wufeng, you better think carefully. The moment I say the name of that special existence, not a single person from your Zhan family who came here today will have a chance to return alive. Zhan Wufeng, you better think carefully. The moment I say it, life and death will be decided immediately. This is not a joke. Be careful, be careful. Jun Moxie smiled lightly, but his eyes shone with a sharp killing intent. The cold sweat on Zhan Wufeng's forehead turned into the size of soybeans, dripping down with a dripping sound. Life is precious and priceless. At the same time, it is also equal. Everyone only has one chance, there are no exceptions. Jun Moxie was still sitting cross-legged on the tea table, but he was no longer as lazy as before. Although he was sitting, he was like an unsheathed sword, ready to drink human blood at any moment. But his words were still light, full of mockery, full of sarcasm, full of indifference, but also full of decisiveness. In this life, a person can regret anything, but when it comes to the choice of life and death, you can't. Zhan Wufeng's body began to tremble. Every word that Jun Moxie said was like a heavy hammer falling on his heart. Step by step, he was forced onto the path of life and death. Apart from the core members of the Zhan family, even the people in the Misty Mansion did not know of Zhan Luanhui's existence. Jun Moxie was far away in the Tiannan continent. How could he know? He must be tricking me. If he wasn't tricking me, why would he keep trying to be mysterious? As long as I dare to bet on this, it will be enough to prove the Zhan family's sincerity, and the Zhan family will be able to make use of Jun Moxie. Make use of the evil Monarch Manor, make use of the Tian Fa forest. Then the Zhan family will be able to live for generations to come. I, Zhan Wufeng, will be the greatest contributor to the Zhan family. But if Jun Moxie really said Zhan Luanhui's name, then there was only one word that awaited him: death. This choice looked very simple, but it was also very difficult. Because the stake of this bet was his own life. Looking at the murderous intent in Jun Moxie's eyes, he absolutely believed that this evil monarch would dare to kill him. An expert who dared to challenge even the 3 holy lands alone, a saint venerable expert. Why wouldn't he dare to kill a mere person like him? No matter how great the Zhan family's influence was, it could not compare to the combined might of the 3 holy lands. As for their strength, it was far inferior. Under the pressure of Jun Moxie's powerful aura, the 2 holy emperors behind him were already sweating profusely. Their hands were already slippery, and they could no longer hold onto the hilt of their swords firmly. Jun Moxie's aura was so oppressive that they didn't even dare to move a single hair on their body. But the other party was still able to speak so calmly, and his tone had not even changed. And Zhan Wuyun did not even feel it at all. Because it was enough for him to feel fear in his heart. If he was as nervous as the 2 of them, then his body would be even stiffer than the 2 of them. Expert from the Zhan family, have you considered it? Jun Moxie looked at him warmly. I am not a person with much patience, especially towards those who have set up a trap to deal with me. I've considered it. Manor Lord Jun, please answer this Zhan's doubts. Just which earth-shattering expert in the Zhan family is capable of facing all the experts of the Heaven Saint Palace alone, rescuing people and leaving calmly? Zhan Wufeng sucked in a deep breath, his eyes burning with passion. If Manor Lord Jun is unable to say it, then it proves that all of Manor Lord Jun's previous conjectures are unjustifiable and are all just conjectures. This also proves the sincerity of our Zhan family in cooperating with Manor Lord Jun. Our proposal of cooperation is still valid. There is a very outstanding youth in the younger generation of the Zhan family. I'm naturally not talking about those 2 dead fools, Zhan Qingfeng and Zhan Yushu. So you don't have to be in a hurry to deny it. Jun Moxie's eyes turned merciless. According to the rumors, the 9 Nether First Young Master had 4 personal disciples. The youngest disciple is called Miao Qingcheng, the founder of the Misty Mansion, and Miao Qingcheng took in 8 disciples in the Misty Mansion. They are the founders of the 8 great families. And one of them has the surname Zhan, the founder of the Zhan family. I'm not interested in what his name was in the past, but I know that he's a real monster. He's actually not dead after such a long time. Brother Zhan, do you know who this person is? Zhan Wufeng's entire body turned cold. I've also heard that this old bastard is extremely inhumane. In order to escape death, every few hundred years or even 1,000 years, he would choose a person with excellent aptitude from his descendants and occupy the body of that person so that he could continue to live. And this kind of old bastard, I really don't understand why the Zhan family is supporting him. Jun Moxie scoffed. But the thing that left the deepest impression on me was that this person did not feel ashamed of slaughtering his own descendants. Instead, he was pleased with himself, thinking that even reincarnation could not do anything to him. He actually gave himself a name, Zhan Luanhui. Tisk tsk. This person really doesn't know the meaning of death. Reincarnation is the heavenly Tao, and he's merely a spirit that managed to escape by luck. He actually has the cheek to say the word Zhan? Truly overestimating his own capabilities. The ridicule in Jun Moxie's eyes had completely turned into a murderous intent. Zhan Wufeng, I've already said my piece. can also go on your way. June Moxie shook his leg. Please walk on the path that your ancestor declared to fight. Reincarnation. This is impossible. How did you know? Zhan Wufeng suddenly cried out in fear and despair. The moment he said the 3 words Zhan Lunhui, he knew that he was finished. The other party was not wrong at all. Even his understanding was not as clear as what June Moxie had deduced. This should be the true plan that Zhan Lunhui had come up with. How I know is not important. What's important is that I'm not the only one who knows. June Moxie said leisurely. 3 seniors, did you hear me clearly? Chapter 1096. The moment June Moxie heard that the other party was going to cooperate, he had already secretly made a hand signal for Miao Zhan and the other 2 to come over. This was the Zhan family's plot, and it was mainly targeted at the Miao family. The evil Monarch manor was merely a necessary part of the Zhan family's plan. The Miao family was their true target. Since June Moxie had already done so much for the Miao family, and June Dashao had never been the kind of good boy who would learn to do good deeds, how could he be willing to be a nameless hero? Naturally, he had to let the 3 big shots of the Miao family come over and listen, especially now that he was suffering from Miao Xiao Miao's hatred, and he needed the help of the Miao family. Since he had such a good bargaining chip, how could he not use it? June Dashao naturally had to make use of every bit of it, launching an all-out attack, casting his net in all directions, and reaping the most important harvest. This situation was definitely not a mistake in the Zhan family's plan. It was just that the target they had chosen was too pitiful. They had actually chosen someone who had no chance of becoming enemies with the Miao family. This was truly too pitiful. And most importantly, June Dashao needed a chance to reconcile with the Miao family, and the Zhan family had sent this opportunity over. This was truly the bad luck of Zhan Wufeng and the rest. If it was any other time, perhaps June Moxie would still consider whether to play with them for a few days, but now that his butt was on fire, he could only treat them as a huge gift. It was not that the plan was bad, but that his family's luck was too bad. Zhan Wufeng, your Zhan family really refuses to give up. Miao Zhan Lengleng looked at Zhan Wufeng and said, for the sake of the Zhan family monopolizing the Misty Mansion, you actually did not hesitate to incite a war between the evil Monarch Manor, Tian Fa Forest, and the 3 Holy Lands. Don't you know that these 5 places are already all the superpowers of the Xian continent? The moment they are destroyed, it is equivalent to the destruction of the entire Xian continent. There will no longer be any power that can stop the abnormal people from the outer regions. You actually want to use such a terrifying price to exchange for the glory of your Zhan family. Miao Zhan said with grief and indignation, how did you come up with such a vicious plan to destroy justice and humanity? Haven't you considered the consequences? Smart? Smart my ass. Zhan Wufeng turned his head back stiffly, Lengleng looking at Miao Zhan. Right now, all his hopes had turned to dust. Before coming, he had even considered what would happen if June Moxie did not accept it. But the worst-case scenario was that everyone would go their separate ways. But who would have thought that June Moxie would be so ruthless, so merciless? He had completely sold out the Zhan family the moment he changed hands. Right now, the 3 of them only had the cultivation of the Holy Emperor. Behind them were 3 Saint Venerables, and in front of them was an even more powerful evil monarch. It could be said that there was no hope at all. Even the slightest chance of escaping did not exist. It was as if a widow had died, and her only son had died. There was no hope at all. So Zhan Wufeng also steeled his heart. Lengleng said, the position of emperor will be rotated. Next year, it will be my family's turn. The authority of the Misty Mansion has never belonged to your Miao family alone. Why has it always been your family that is in charge? The reason is very simple. When our Miao family is in charge of the Misty Mansion, our starting point has always been the entire Misty Mansion. The Miao family is in charge of the Misty Mansion, and the Misty Mansion has always been ruled by the 8 families. But your Zhan family's starting point is for your own selfish desires. If you really succeed, the Misty Mansion will become your Zhan family's world. This is the fundamental difference. Miao Zhan snorted coldly. Zhan Wu Feng, ambition and justice have never been able to coexist. What ambition? What justice? It's just that your surname is Miao, and our surname is Zhan. Zhan Wu Feng laughed maniacally. Jun Moxie furrowed his brows, as if he found his laughter unpleasant. Shaking his head, he suddenly stood up and said indifferently, "What is there to say to this kind of scum? The earlier we kill him, the earlier we get it over with." Since the Miao family had already seen it with their own eyes and ears, why would Jun Moxie waste any more time talking to these people? The moment he finished speaking, his figure had already risen into the air, and his foot landed squarely on Zhan Wu Feng's head. Zhan Wu Feng cried out miserably, and his head was instantly crushed. He did not resist at all against this attack from Jun Moxie. This was because he clearly understood that with his strength, it was useless to resist the encirclement of 4 Saint Venerables. He would only end up humiliating himself. It would be better to just surrender and wait for death. At the very least, he would be able to end this nightmarish torment a little earlier. But after he fell, Zhan Wu Feng let out a long sigh, as if he was letting out a long sigh. Because he knew that today's matter had not only completely ruined the Zhan family's meticulous plan, it would also incite the hostility of the other 7 families in the Misty Mansion. And he and the others would not even be able to send the news back. The Zhan family is finished. The 2 holy emperors behind Zhan Wu Feng drew their swords and charged forward at the same time. Miao Dao and Miao Jian were just about to make a move when Miao Zhan shook his head lightly, stopping the 2 of them from interfering. In the instant that Jun Moxie had leaped up, Miao Zhan had noticed the frenzied killing intent in Jun Moxie's eyes. His attack was not to kill the enemy, but to vent the anger, frustration, and unhappiness in his heart. Although Miao Zhan did not know why this evil monarch would suddenly act in such a frenzied manner, he knew that it must be because someone had offended him for some reason, causing him to act in such a domineering and bloodthirsty manner. Under such circumstances, if they were to help him, not only would it not have any positive effects, it would instead cause him to be unable to vent his anger, causing him to be dissatisfied. And another advantage of watching from the sidelines was that they could take the opportunity to see the true strength of this evil monarch. In the next instant, the 3 Saint Venerables widened their eyes. The 2 holy emperors behind Zhan Wu Feng had only unsheathed their swords by half a foot when Jun Moxie had already pounced forward. His palms chopped down at the air, and 2 solid waves of qi smashed down like heavy hammers, smashing right onto the back of their swords. The 2 of them groaned and retreated, but Jun Moxie had already arrived above their heads. His elbow had already smashed heavily into the back of one of them, while his other hand slapped down from the top of the other's head. With a loud pa sound, this holy emperor's entire head was smashed into his chest, and his lower abdomen exploded with a loud bang. Fresh blood spurted out. But the moment it left Jun Moxie's body, Jun Moxie grabbed it with his hand and sent it flying back into his stomach. Under his full force attack, the 2 holy emperors did not even have the slightest chance to retaliate. Following that, 3 balls of black flames appeared out of thin air, following a strange trajectory and slowly landing on the bodies of these 3 people. In an instant, the black flames disappeared into thin air, and the ground was completely clean, as if nothing had happened. Not to mention corpses and blood, there wasn't even the slightest smell left behind. It was as if the bodies of Zhan Wu Feng and the other 2 did not fall here at all. Under the burning of the black flames, not a single trace of the bodies of the 3 holy emperors was left behind. Disappeared without a trace? Evaporated from the face of the earth? What kind of method was this? This was a little too terrifying, right? Miao Zhan, Miao Dao, and Miao Jian were both dumbfounded. Seeing that the 3 of them were still staring at the ground warily, Jun Moxie was slightly taken aback. "Why don't the 3 of you come in and have a seat? Lord Jun is young and powerful, but his experience is too shallow. The Holy Emperor experts can already produce spirit seeds. We have to be on guard." Miao Zhan said solemnly. "If their spirit seed escapes, then our gains today will all go down the drain, and the misty illusory manor will be in chaos." "Huh, the 3 of you are worrying too much. In my hands, only their souls have been destroyed. How could there be any spirit seeds? June Moxie laughed and said, "The three of you can be at ease. Although this seat has not destroyed many spirit seeds, there are at least 5 or 6 of them. Please have a seat." The three of them sucked in a breath of cold air at the same time. June Moxie was actually so ruthless when it came to killing. The moment he killed, his soul would be destroyed. Even a Saint Venerable might not have the chance to kill a spirit seed once in their lifetime. He was only a few years old, but he had already killed so many spirit seeds. Didn't this mean that at least 5 or 6 holy emperors or Saint Venerables had died in his hands? How many people like this were there in the world? The three of them looked at the clean floor again, then raised their heads at the same time to look at June Moxie's face. The fear in their eyes was clear. This person must not be made an enemy of. Once they became enemies, there would be no more days of peace. But I wonder why Manor Lord June did this? Miao Zhan looked at June Moxie for a long time before asking. "You exposed the Zhan family's plot in front of us, and even killed these 3 people on the spot. There must be a deeper meaning to this, right?" June Moxie did not bat an eyelid. He slowly walked to the main seat and sat down. He clapped his hands and ordered for tea to be served. "Senior Miao Zhan, what does Senior Miao Zhan think I have?" He had just used the most ruthless method to kill people here, and now he had to entertain important guests here, and it was right in front of these important guests. This did not seem right, and it was extremely rude. But June Moxie seemed to have forgotten that Miao Zhan and the rest did not mind, and actually sat down. "Your intention?" Miao Zhan deliberated. "But Manor Lord June, because of our needs, our Misty Mansion has always only cooperated with those who control the continent. Even if you want to cooperate with Misty Mansion, this sincerity is already great enough, but it has to be after you have truly settled down. Right now, this old man is unable to give you any promises. I hope Lord June can understand. Cooperation. I do not wish to cooperate with you for the time being." June Moxie said lightly, "My partners have always been the ones who come to me on their own accord. Just like Zhan Wufeng today. I have never taken the initiative to cooperate with anyone. And even if they take the initiative to cooperate with me, it depends on my mood at that time. Right now, I really do not think that your Misty Mansion can help me with anything. So, this so-called cooperation, there is no need to talk about it. Then, what is the meaning of Manor Lord June's words?" Miao Zhan raised his eyebrows slightly. June Moxie's tone was a little too arrogant, and this senior of Misty Mansion also did not like it. "Since you think that we are unable to help you, then why are you in a hurry to help us solve our problems?" "The reason is very simple. Just because I do not wish to become enemies with the Miao family." June Moxie said slowly, "Because I am Mo Junyi. Mo Junyi is the incarnation of me, June Moxie." He raised his head and looked straight at Miao Zhan. "Miao Xiao Miao is my woman." June Mo Xie had brought this matter to light in a spurt of energy. Update completed for today. These 2 days I did not have any ideas at all. Going for surgery the day after tomorrow. A few days ago I kept feeling dizzy. When I went for a checkup, it was said that it was a lipoma caused by a problem with my cervical vertebrae pressing on my nerves. Fuck, that thing is not big, only the size of a pigeon's egg. It has been on the back of my neck for 3 to 4 months, and I did not take it to heart. To think that it actually has such a function. Chapter 1097. I, June Moxie, am Mo Junyi. Miao Xiao Miao is my woman. June Moxie slowly revealed the truth. It seemed like only the heavens knew how terrifying the impact of these 2 sentences on Miao Zhan and the others would be. When they left the Misty Mansion, Miao Jingyun had hinted to the 3 that this evil monarch was very likely to be the genius of the Misty Mansion, Mo Junyi. So at that time, the 3 of them had already made the connection between this evil monarch and Mo Junyi. If it was really the same person, then they were not outsiders. Mo Junyi was the son-in-law of the Miao family. Although they didn't know why this evil monarch, June Moxie, had gone to the Misty Mansion that day, the 3 of them were quite confident that a person like June Moxie would definitely not renege on a debt. especially since they'd heard that this person had flown into a rage several times for the sake of beauties, and was extremely good to his women. Something like abandoning them after taking advantage of them was not something that he would do. The scene of him helping that last Xiao Miao with her tribulation that day was something that everyone had seen for themselves. Now that they understood his true identity, all the suspicions from that day had been cleared up. So the three of them had only been thinking about what they should do when they reached the evil Monarch manor. Should they lay their cards on the table? Or should they not? What should they do to maximize the benefits? But when they reached the evil Monarch manor and saw June Moxie personally, the three of them overturned their original guess. Because that guess that was 90% in the bag now seemed too ridiculous. June Moxie and Mo Junyi not only had different looks, different figures, different temperaments, different ways of doing things, and even the look in their eyes were very different. Those who were proficient in disguise knew that a person could make themselves look ugly, or they could make themselves look better, or even completely change their appearance. However, no matter how they changed, the distance between the eyes could not be changed. The distance between the eyes and the nasal bone was a constant iron triangle. No matter how brilliant the bone shrinking technique was, it was impossible to reach this level. Furthermore, June Moxie and Mo Junye's faces were completely different in this crucial aspect. In other words, these two people were two different individuals. It was impossible for them to be the same person. Therefore, when the three of them saw June Moxie, their only thought was, Manor Head had made a mistake. June Moxie is definitely not Mo Junyi. This thought emerged in his mind. As this thought arose, the plan that they had been planning for a long time was also ruined. With the mindset that it was better to work with someone familiar than someone unfamiliar, the three of them naturally leaned towards the three holy lands when it came to choosing a partner. But the affairs of the world were just that mysterious. Today's matter was even more dramatic. What they had originally believed was completely denied by the other party, and this thing that they had confirmed was once again given a shocking answer, returning back to the original answer. This kind of strange and roundabout outcome was something that even these three Saint Venerables who were experienced in the pugilistic world would find hard to accept. So when June Moxie revealed the truth, the three Saint Venerables widened their eyes and mouths at the same time, staring at June Moxie in a daze. The three of their expressions and actions were exactly the same, and even the expressions in their eyes were exactly the same. Three old men, the same actions, the same posture, the same expression, the same appearance, and it was the kind of comical appearance that would make one spit out rice. If not for the fact that Jun Dushao's heart was really heavy and gloomy right now, he would have laughed out loud. Manor Jun? Miao Zhan finally closed his mouth and laughed bitterly. This joke of yours is really too big, but this joke is really not funny. Joke? I'm not in the mood to joke with you guys right now. June Moxie said seriously. When I entered the Misty Mansion under the alias of Mo Junyi, I had my own motives, and this action was also disrespectful to the Misty Mansion. But this seat did not cause any damage to the Misty Mansion. Not only did I secretly ruin the Zhan family's heaven-defying plot against the Miao family, I killed two of the Zhan family's Saint Venerables, helped you guys stabilize the emotions of the Rainbow Holy Tree, and even reached an agreement with Senior Miao Qingcheng. The expressions of Miao Zhan and the others finally turned serious. Are you really Mo Junyi? Suspicions were just suspicions, but this evil monarch seemed to know too many things. Even the three of them did not know the details of most of the things. If he said that he was not Mo Junyi, it would be even more difficult to explain. Could it be that Mo Junyi is some incredible character? Is he worthy for this seat to impersonate him? En Chao Guofeng and the other 6 holy emperors, did their advancements go smoothly? June Moxie asked calmly. Then he revealed a piece of information that no one else would know. At this point, Miao Zhan and the others no longer had any doubts. Clearly, the accidental advancements of Chao Guofeng and the others were not really an accident, but a gift from Mo Junyi, the evil monarch, June Moxie. I do not know why Manor Lord June wanted to disguise himself and enter the Misty Mansion back then, but no matter what your motive is, I no longer have any interest in understanding it, nor do I wish to pursue it now. Miao Zhan said carefully. In truth, before we left the Misty Mansion, Manor Lord had already hinted to us that the evil monarch might be Mo Junyi. It's just that we did not dare to believe it, especially after seeing Manor Lord Jun's true face. But now, Manor Lord Jun has made us have no choice but to believe it. It's just that. He laughed bitterly. It's just that, why is Manor Lord telling this old man all this now? This old man really cannot imagine why you would go through so much trouble to enter the Misty Mansion and risk offending the entire Misty Mansion just to do something. Now, as long as you do not admit it, everything will not be blamed on you. But you suddenly took the initiative to say it. Manor Lord can't possibly be trying to test the patience of the Misty Mansion, right? Manor Lord does not seem like such an unwise person, so there must be some other reason behind this, right? Miao Zhan said slowly. That's right. There is naturally a reason. And a very important reason. Jun Moxie said decisively. I did it for Xiao Miao. For Xiao Miao. Miao Zhan and the others were stunned. The three of them would never have dreamed that the important reason that Jun Moxie mentioned was actually Miao Xiao Miao. Miao Zhan and the others were really shocked. They were even guessing what was Jun Moxie's purpose, or should it be said that he had some long-term plans. What's more, Jun Moxie chose to say it openly for the sake of the grand blueprint of dominating the world, in order to win the understanding of the Misty Mansion, and then both sides would cooperate sincerely. Just now, Jun Moxie did mention that Miao Xiao Miao is the woman that I approve of. But in the ears of Miao Zhan and the others, it was just a way to pull their relationship closer, and they may not care much about it. In this world, it was normal for a man to have 3 wives and 4 concubines. Not to mention a generation's overlord like Jun Moxie. Even an ordinary descendant of an aristocratic family would have a dozen or even dozens of concubines. It was a common thing for everyone. To a man, a woman had always been a vassal or an ornament. Even if a woman from a great aristocratic family appeared to be different from the others on the surface, she was still just a tool for marriage. No matter how much they doted on her normally, when it came to a critical moment, when the benefits were at stake, she would still be sacrificed without hesitation. Even the pearl of the Miao family like Miao Xiao Miao would not be an exception. But right now, Jun Mo Xie had actually destroyed all of his plans for a single Miao Xiao Miao, exposing all of his plans and even risking the wrath of the entire misty illusory manor. In the eyes of Miao Zhan and the others, this answer and this reason were really unbelievable. Even if the target was the pearl of the Miao family, the 3 of them, or even the entire Miao family's elders. Even if she was the #1 beauty in the world, it was not worth it. Especially now that Jun Mo Xie was a true hegemon who ruled over an area. He was one of the few people who stood at the pinnacle of cultivation in the entire world. If he really did such a thing for a mere woman, he was simply out of his mind. From their understanding, such an emotional person was really not a suitable partner to work with. And not a qualified leader. Manor Lord Jun, this reason of yours is a little too far-fetched. What this old man wants to hear is your real motive, the real reason. I'm not here to listen to you boast about your infatuation or your stubbornness. Although Xiao Miao is the daughter of the Miao family, even if the 2 of you end up together, she is only one of your many women. If Manor Lord is using this reason as an opportunity or a foundation for our cooperation, then there is really no need for us to continue. Miao Zhan's face had already turned a little ugly. Clearly, Jun Moxie's reason for Miao Xiao Miao was a little ridiculous to him. That's right, Jun Moxie, the 3 of us are old fellows who have lived for thousands of years. Do you really think that we will believe such a lame reason? Miao Jian Lenglang said. Did the 3 of you not understand what I said just now? I've never thought of cooperating with your misty illusory manner. If you didn't hear me clearly, or if you didn't understand, I'll repeat it again. As for what I said just now, whether you believe it or not, it has nothing to do with me, and is even more meaningless to me. I will still do it even if the whole world does not believe it. I, Jun Moxie, will still be Jun Moxie. I will still be a person who does things my own way, a maverick. Jun Moxie rolled his eyes and said proudly, if you don't believe it, that's because you do not understand me, Jun Moxie. Chapter 1098. I, June Moxie, have never been a good person. I'm not a gentleman. So, don't judge me with the standard of a good person or a gentleman. June Moxie said calmly, I don't care about the world. I don't have any feelings for the common people. What I want is freedom, strength, and freedom to do what I want. No one can restrain me. I look at the world coldly and I'm proud of the world. That's me, June Moxie. I can discard mountains of gold and silver. I can also regard glory, splendor, and wealth as trash. Even if I'm the most powerful person in the world, I won't care about it. When it's time to give it up, I'll give it up without hesitation. There won't be any hesitation, nor will there be any reluctance. What I care about is my home. What I fancy is my family. What I can't give up is my concern. June Moxie said slowly, for most men in this world, women are just clothes that can be discarded at any time. They're born to be used and played by men. But I, June Moxie, don't think so. I love my country, but I love beauties even more. June Moxie laughed. If it's compared to my country, I'd rather have my beauties. If I have beauties by my side, what's the world? He laughed heartily. I don't think I'm an ambitious and ruthless person. I'm not a hero material either. I'm not an organizational talent, and I'm not a leader. Leading a faction, to me, was just a more exciting and challenging game. When I'm done playing, I won't care about anything else. But my women, the women that I approve of, no matter where I go in the future, I'll take them with me. June Moxie shook his head slowly. You won't understand my thoughts, and you won't understand them. Because of the gap between our thoughts. June Moxie heaved a long sigh. He looked at Miao Zhan and the others with a sorrowful gaze. The gap between our thoughts is at least 5,000 years, maybe even longer. What I want is a complete heart, a fusion of emotions. June Moxie heaved a long sigh of relief. In fact, I'm a heartless person, but at the same time, I'm also a sentimental person. Based on what Manor Lord means, Manor Lord is saying that you're a passionate person? Miao Dao's eyes revealed a strange expression. I have never been sentimental. At best, I'm only interested in women I approve of. June Moxie smiled faintly. For the women who don't belong to me, even if they are peerless and beautiful, to me, they are a piece of scenery if they are my friends, and a pile of bones if they are my enemies. There's no difference at all. Since you are so affectionate towards your own woman, then you shouldn't have provoked so many women. Right now you already have 3 wives and 4 concubines. Beautiful women are as common as the clouds. How can you dare to boast that your feelings are complete? Miao Jian Lengleng said, why do you have to use this kind of reason to flaunt yourself? Flaunt yourself? Flaunt myself in front of you. June Moxie laughed loudly. The 3 of you, we can all be considered acquaintances, so I have something to say. It's not that I'm looking down on you, but just the 3 of you are not worthy of me flaunting myself in front of you. The faces of the 3 instantly changed. I don't care about you, and I don't care about the Misty Mansion. Because whether or not I cooperate with you, or become enemies with you, it doesn't make much difference to me. Similarly, I don't care about the 3 holy lands. To fight or not to fight, it's always up to a single thought of mine. If I want to fight, even if the strange races have already killed their way here, I will not change my mind. If I don't want to fight, even if Senior Miao Qingcheng comes personally, he won't be able to do anything to me. June Moxie scoffed coldly. I am the evil monarch. Even if my body turns to ashes after I die, it will still be June Moxie's ashes. There won't be any change. That's all. The reason why I'm sentimental is because of the attachment those women have towards me. They've given me their true feelings, so I will definitely respond to them, protect them, and love them. I do have many women, but every single one of them, before and after following me, are independent individuals. I've never obstructed them, nor will I interfere with their thoughts. Women are born weak, so I naturally have to protect them carefully. June Moxie said indifferently, I value my women very much. Towards each and every one of them, I cherish them wholeheartedly. Compared to them, the world's rivers and mountains, my ambitions are far from being comparable. Or perhaps I should say, comparing the former to the latter, it's just 1,000 caddies. In front of them, I'm only a man that belongs to them. I'm not that high and mighty evil monarch, nor some saint venerable expert. June Moxie smiled lightly. This logic, if you understand it, then you understand it. If you don't understand it, then you don't understand it. In short, I care about my family and my women more than anything else. And Xiao Miao just happens to be one of the women that I acknowledge. That's all. Miao Zhan let out a long breath. This old man understands. You're indeed different from the masses, willing to give up 1,000 gold for a smile, willing to topple a city for joy. Your ambitions for the throne are all for naught, and you're willing to throw everything away for a woman. This old man had only thought that he was just a legendary figure, but I really didn't expect that there's actually such a true man in this world. June Moxie, although you can't be loyal to one person, but for you to be able to do this for your woman, this old man can't help but look at you in a different light. Miao Dao smiled lightly, a gratified look on his face. Obviously, he was rejoicing that Miao Xiao Miao didn't choose the wrong person to entrust her life to. But then he sighed again. But your attitude, your way of thinking, makes this old man feel gratified, but also pitied. Your talent and martial arts can be said to be unique in the world. With your current progress in Shen cultivation, even the 9 Nether first young master had to admit that he was inferior to you. But you... He let out a long sigh, obviously criticizing June Moxie for only caring about his personal feelings and valuing love too much, which was undoubtedly a great waste. I've said it just now, I don't know what righteousness is, but I do know that a woman has given her entire life to me and chose to trust me. Then, as a man, letting his woman be happy is his responsibility. June Moxie said indifferently, letting my woman be happy is my responsibility. Perhaps I can't give all my love to one person, but I will try my best to let my woman feel happy and satisfied. To me, this is already the most meaningful thing. June Moxie was indifferent, but resolute in ending his words. Just as he had said, this was June Moxie. He was not a gentleman, nor was he a good person. But he was a person who was loyal to his family and loved ones. He was not a hero, and would not choose to shed his blood for the sake of the world. But he would disregard everything for his family. He might be a little impulsive, a little stubborn, and even a little extreme. These were the weaknesses of his character. But it was precisely these weaknesses of his that enriched his life, causing this evil monarch who was famous for his evil to become adorable. Miao Dao, Miao Jian, and Miao Zhan remained silent for a long time, not saying a single word, as if they were thinking about something. Many of the words that June Moxie had said just now were abnormally disrespectful to them with their status. But they did not think of this at this moment, because June Moxie's words had also given them a great shock. Right now, they were only thinking deeply about whether June Moxie's words were true or not. Was it really just for Miao Xiao Miao? Did such a man really exist in this world? A man who had 7 or 8 peerless beauties, and was willing to disregard everything for any one of them. He would give his heart and soul to any one of them? Such a thing sounded so ridiculous. At least to them, it was unbelievable. But when the 3 of them thought of the information they had received earlier, they began to believe it. They had no choice but to believe it. Back then, for the sake of Guanqing Han, June Moxie had wreaked havoc in the Shuehan manor. With a mere silver Shen cultivation, he was not afraid of the great master Li Ju Tian, who was ranked 2nd among the 8 great masters. At that time, the June family even had an even stronger enemy, the Xiao family of the Blizzard Silver City. Provoking the Shuehan Manor and the Blizzard Silver City at the same time, with the strength of the June family at that time, anyone would feel that it was inconceivable. That was an act of extreme stupidity. But June Moxie still did it, and he did it without any hesitation. Then, for the sake of Guanqing Han, he had bathed Tianxiang City in blood. For the sake of a woman, he did not hesitate to go against the morals of the world. This was even more difficult to comprehend. But June Moxie had still done it. That day, for the sake of Mei Xuan, he had used his status as a member of a worldly family to brazenly go against the 3 holy lands. This was something that no one would even dare to think about. But June Moxie had still done it. Moreover, he had done it in a spectacular manner. He had even held back and killed nearly half of the people from the 3 Holy Lands. This was a feat that could be described as crazy. And now, for the sake of Miao Xiao Miao, he had claimed to be Mo Junyi, and entered the Misty Mansion for another purpose? Although it seemed unimaginable, but when compared to the previous 2 things, it was much easier to accept. This June Moxie could not be understood with common sense. And the most important thing was that from the beginning to the end, June Moxie had not made any requests at all. He had no need to use the Misty Mansion at all. This point could be clearly seen from June Moxie's attitude and the way he spoke. Although the Misty Mansion was a colossus that even the 3 Holy Lands did not dare to provoke, it was still not enough to place June Moxie in his eyes. This brat's arrogance was practically on par with the heavens. Thinking of this, the 3 of them felt a little depressed. Perhaps you, June Moxie, are such a crazy person. Miao Zhan deliberated over his words and said, but as for how to deal with this matter, the 3 of us cannot decide. Even if we give you a promise now, it does not mean anything. We still have to go back and ask the Manor Lord to make a decision. Although he said this, he was muttering in his heart. When we came here, the Manor Lord had hinted that he had already known about this beforehand. How else can we deal with him? Most likely, this matter will be left unsettled. Besides, to have such a strong ally like the evil Monarch Manor, it is also a good thing for the Misty Mansion. Especially since they don't have to pay any price. Why not? Also, this is the home of our Miao family's son-in-law, which is equivalent to half of our own family. Miao Zhan had already acknowledged this as a relative in his heart. Chapter 1099. I didn't ask you guys to decide anything. As for promises and what they represent, there's no need. June Moxie smiled bitterly. My biggest headache right now is Xiao Miao's matter. I hope that you guys can promise me one thing. This is a problem that I can't solve at the moment. What is it? Miao Dao asked curiously. What happened to that last Xiao Miao? To make you, the evil monarch, feel like your butt is on fire? The moment Miao Dao said that, Miao Zhan and Miao Jian's interest was instantly piqued. These 3 old men were old demons who had lived for over 1,000 years. After witnessing June Dashao's uneasiness and anger, and thinking about this Lord Monarch's self-analysis just now, how could they not understand that the reason why this evil monarch would make such a crappy decision in such a hurry was definitely because that last Xiao Miao had done something after knowing the truth, causing this evil monarch to be flustered, resulting in this strange situation. This brat's talent was naturally high, and his attainments in Xian cultivation were also profound. However, his way of controlling his wife was too lacking. He was actually thrown into confusion because of a woman. If a saint venerable expert favored a woman, wouldn't that woman's family immediately offer her to him? Even that woman would be overwhelmed by his favor and serve him carefully. No matter how powerful her family's foundation was, even if that woman had someone else in her heart, or even if she was already in love with him, there would be no exception. Even if she was abandoned after the matter, no one would dare to pursue the matter. In this world where the fist was the strongest, this had already become the norm. No matter how arrogant the Misty Mansion was, they would definitely not fight to the death with the evil Monarch Manor for a Miao Xiao Miao. After all, June Moxie's foundation, reputation, strength, and influence were all there for all to see. What was there to be afraid of? The 3 of them had all gone through this stage, and they had personally witnessed countless of their fellow Taoists doing the same thing. The current situation was simply too strange. Could it be that the world had been turned upside down? This was truly incomprehensible. June Dashao didn't understand the reason. He thought that the 3 elders had found something wrong with Xiao Miao and wanted to punish him. It's really a long story. June Moxie opened his mouth, but closed it again. His expression was conflicted. Xiao Miao, she refused to forgive me. Insisted that I am me, and Mo Junyi is Mo Junyi, and she resents me for causing her Junyi to disappear forever. I'm really speechless. The mouths of the 3 saint sages were wide open. Is that even possible? The so-called Jun Moxie and Mo Junyi were just two different names? At most, their faces would be different, but in essence, they were still the same person. What contradiction was there? What did he mean by Jun Moxie made Mo Junyi disappear forever? What kind of explanation was this? Could it be that this brat was acting in front of us? His acting skills were a little too good, right? But this act was a little too lousy. It's fine if Xiao Miao can't accept me for the time being, but she just has to insist, saying that she wants to maintain her chastity for her Junyi. Jun Mo Xie rolled his eyes speechlessly, looking like he wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Although they knew that this was not the time to laugh, Miao Zhan and the other two elders still couldn't help but laugh out loud. This was really too amusing. Who asked you to pretend to be a Casanova again? You've met with a difficult problem, right? If you acted like a genuine Saint Venerable and directly said that you've taken a fancy to Miao Xiao Miao, not to mention the name of the evil monarch and the power of the evil monarch manor, just based on your own strength, our Miao family would be more than happy to marry our daughter to you. Asking for trouble. Jun Moxie furrowed his brows and rolled his eyes at them. Fuck, the three of you are the elders of Xiao Miao's family. Even if you don't want to help, there's no need to laugh so happily, right? Is it that funny? What's so amusing about it? You want us to go and persuade her? The three Saint Venerables shook their heads solemnly. Xiao Miao, that lass has been stubborn since she was young. We can't persuade her. No. The three old heads shook like a rattle drum, swaying left and right in unison. This rejection could be said to be of one mind, saying in unison, you Jun Moxie have toyed with the entire Misty Mansion, causing everyone to not know whether to laugh or cry. Yet we can't throw a tantrum at you? Who do you think you are? There has to be someone who can teach you a lesson. Today, you've brought this upon yourself, and the heavens have eyes. Now that your retribution has come, we brothers can't wait to watch the show. Why would we help you resolve it? Dream on. The expressions on the three of their faces were filled with grief, sympathy, and even confusion. However, in their hearts, they were overjoyed. The glint of joy in their eyes betrayed them. They rejoiced in other people's misfortune and felt extremely comfortable. Who asked you to be so arrogant? Weren't you very arrogant just now? You even said things like, I don't like your Misty Mansion is not worthy, and I am Jun Moxie. That's it. But you have character. You have a temper. You are capable. But now, no matter how capable you are, no matter how much temper you have, where has your character gone? What passion? In the end, you're just a henpecked husband. Henpecked husband? You've lost the face of us Saint Venerables, and you still want us to help you? Dream on. We're ashamed to be associated with you. At this moment, Jun Dashao seemed to be gnashing his teeth in hatred. These three damned old things. If you don't want to help, then don't help, but you can't sing I'm happy. Even if you want to sing I'm happy, you should control your expressions and not let me see it. With your Saint Venerable's cultivation, it shouldn't be difficult for you to control your emotions and expressions, right? But you're acting like you want to laugh but are unwilling to do so. You even have to put on a fake sad expression. You're just like three chimpanzees who have been constipated for 7 days and 7 nights without being able to poop. Damn you. You three old things, just you wait for your Grandpa Jun, pray to God and Buddha that you don't fall into my hands. Otherwise, I'll make you three old monsters beg for death. Jun Dashao cursed in his heart. Are you going to help or not? Jun Moxie gritted his teeth and said in a heavier tone, We're not helping. The three old fellows blurted out in unison, almost in a satisfied tone. Then, they immediately came to their senses and sighed. It's not that we don't want to help. We really can't help. We really have the heart, but we don't have the strength. Miao Zhan said sorrowfully. Look at the corner of your mouth twitching and your whole body cramping. Which part of you looks like you're going to help? Jun Moxie cursed in his heart. Unfortunately, this old man has been obsessed with martial arts all his life. I'm really not good at this kind of small matters. Miao Dao said. How the hell are you going to be good at it? Don't tell me you're so old that your D*CK has probably been eroded by the wind and you still want to pick up girls? The corner of Jun Dashao's mouth twitched. As the saying goes, the one who tied the bell must untie it. What can we outsiders do to help? Miao Jian said in a sincere and heartfelt tone. Untie your head. I'll tie your head. In a split second, Jun Dashao felt like his intestines were tied into 17 or 18 dead knots. The people of this misty mansion are really abominable. Since that's the case, I'll leave Xiao Miao behind. As for the three of you, please do as you please. You've been out for so long, it's time to go back. I won't be seeing you out. Jun Moxie was listless and directly ordered them to leave. How can that be? We've come and gone together. How can we leave Xiao Miao alone? Xiao Miao is a weak girl. If she's bullied, what should we do? How do you want us to face our colleagues in the Misty Mansion in the future? How do we face Xiao Miao's parents and family? Miao Zhan's eyes widened and his tone was full of righteousness. That's right. Besides, we have a heavy responsibility. It concerns the future of the Misty Mansion. How can we just go back like this? Miao Jian blew his beard and his sharp face instantly became serious. That's right. Actually, Manor Lord Jun doesn't need to be too anxious. You can slowly influence that last Xiao Miao. As the saying goes, sincerity can move metal and stone. As the saying goes, a chaste woman is afraid of a pestering man. As the saying goes, as long as one's skills are deep enough, an iron rod can be ground into a needle. As the saying goes, Miao Jian's tone was rhythmic and his eyes were filled with satisfaction. As the saying goes, scram. Jun Moxie's stomach was filled with anger after hearing that, as the saying goes. He could no longer hold it in. With a roar, he stood up and swung his sleeves, leaving with a black face. He threw these three Saint Venerables into the room. These three old farts obviously wanted to watch this young master's show. Look at those old but shameless faces, they're practically doing somersaults with joy. I've seen too many people gloating over others' misfortune, but to be able to gloat to the extent of you three old farts, it's really the first time in my life. Jun Moxie's scram could be said to be extremely rude. But not only did Miao Zhan and the other two not feel offended, they even held their stomachs and laughed out loud. Jun Moxie walked out angrily with a murderous look on his face. He tilted his head and asked, "Where are the rest of the Zhan family members settled?" A member of the Heaven Destroyer team who was standing guard hurriedly pointed the way with a face full of caution, not daring to be negligent at all. From the looks of this young master, he clearly wanted to find a punching bag to vent his anger on. Please pray to the gods that he didn't find a punching bag and vent his anger on them. That could cost their lives. There were still many people chatting outside the courtyard. When they saw the evil monarch suddenly walking over, they all hurried forward to greet him respectfully, not hoping to gain recognition, but just to get familiar with him. But the evil monarch walked past them with a face full of killing intent, completely ignoring them. Just who was it that offended this young master? Looks like that fellow is going to be unlucky. Mo Wudao, Shi Ruochen, and Huyan Aobo were currently chatting in front of the tent. Beside them, there was another member of the Zhan family who was chatting with them. The grievous news of the three from the Zhan family had not even reached here, but when they saw Jun Dashao striding over, Mo Wudao and the other two were still hesitating on whether they should greet him. After all, this fellow really didn't give them any face just now. They really didn't want to bother with him now, but they were in someone else's territory, and they were here for the other party's help this time. It really wouldn't be right if they didn't greet him. I'm not afraid of you jumping around happily today. There will naturally be a day when I give you a list of things to do. Mo Wudao finally forced out a smile. Manor Lord Jun. Chapter 1100. This slap was undoubtedly very heavy. Immediately, that guy's head spun like a top on his neck. He was surrounded by phantoms of human faces, but strangely, the body below his neck remained motionless. In everyone's shock, Jun Moxie had already barged into the tent prepared for the Zhan family like a god of death. With a few loud slaps, he walked out with a cold and murderous look on his face. With a single step, he disappeared without a trace. As for that Zhan family member who had been slapped, the head on his neck was still spinning non-stop. After a long time, it finally came to a stop, and the head rolled onto the ground. His neck had actually twisted into a thin line, and not a single drop of blood could be seen. Mo Wudao watched as Jun Moxie's figure disappeared in the blink of an eye. He was stunned for a moment before he turned around to look at that Zhan family expert who was chatting happily with them earlier. That headless body was still standing upright, and his eyes were filled with shock. It was just a slap. A saint-level expert that was one level higher than him had died just like that. His death could be said to be completely inexplicable, and the state of his death was indescribably wretched. In fact, it was extremely strange. It was like a rubber band that had been twisted to its limit by an external force, and finally snapped. The surroundings were completely silent. Everyone's jaws dropped when they saw this extremely strange scene, and they sucked in a breath of cold air. Those who could attend the Evil Monarch Manners meeting were all heroes of their own regions. To them, killing someone was simply a common occurrence. But such a strange scene was something they had never seen before in their lives. But just as everyone was bewildered, thumping sounds suddenly rang out from the Zhan family's tent. The sound was deep and strange. Everyone rushed forward and pulled open the cloth that was still fluttering. Then, everyone was completely dumbfounded. Following that, someone turned around and vomited. There were still 4 to 5 people from the Zhan family in the tent, but right now, they had all turned into dead people. 2 of them were originally standing, but now they were lying on the ground. As for the other 3, one was sitting, one was lying on the ground, and the last one was still bowing. It was clear that the 5 of them were performing a ceremonial action to welcome the arrival of the evil monarch. In fact, there was even a trace of surprise and joy on their faces. But all 5 of them had a bloody hole in their chests. A sure hit, a sure kill, a sure kill, a sure kill, a sure kill. Jun Moxie's attack was so fast that even an expert of this level couldn't react in time. Everything ended in that instant, so even though they were dead, they were still in the position they were in before they stopped breathing. The chest, where the heart was located, was completely penetrated. Fresh blood, as if there was no room for it to stop, flowed out from both sides of the gap, converging into a fountain of blood on the ground, gurgling out, meandering and twisting. After everyone was stunned for a moment, the 3 corpses slowly fell to the ground. Everyone covered their mouths, not daring to make the slightest sound as they tiptoed out. What is this place? This is the Misty Mansion, the private tent of the Zhan family. The Zhan family, one of the 8 great families of the Misty Mansion. Their strength was at a level that ordinary people could not even imagine. They were not inferior to any one of the 3 holy lands. But it was precisely because of such a background that the evil monarch Jun Moxie had slaughtered all of them in broad daylight without the slightest scruple. If they were to invite trouble because of their own curiosity, that would be a calamity that could wipe out their entire family. Everyone had just retreated out when another pew sound rang out from the entrance. The corpse of the Zhan family expert who had been beheaded with a single slap had finally fallen to the ground. It was lying flat on the ground, and its 4 limbs were even stretched out. Without a head, the big character could not be formed. At most, it could only be a node's character. However, the vertical line in the middle was a little shorter, and this corpse still had not a single drop of blood seeping out. It was still completely sealed within the body. With a toot sound, everyone scattered like birds and beasts. Even Mo Wudao and the other 2 returned to their own residences with sunken faces. With regards to what had happened here, everyone chose to keep their mouths shut. From the evil monarch's expression, everyone could tell that this time, this evil monarch was going to stir up another unprecedented storm. There was indeed a storm. But right now, the biggest storm was brewing in the evil monarch's heart. The evil monarch was very depressed, very conflicted. In any case, he was very uncomfortable and unhappy. He had given the greatest sincerity, but he had attracted a bunch of trash to watch the show. What the fuck was going on? Unfortunately, he couldn't really kill all of them. How unlucky. Miao Xiao Miao slowly woke up. She felt a heart-wrenching pain in her heart. Earlier, she had forcefully circulated her Xian Qi and heavily damaged her meridians. Finally, she reversed her internal energy and forcefully spat out the medicinal energy of the exquisite lotus. However, This action had caused her body and meridians to suffer extremely serious injuries. Right now, every single part of her body felt like it was being sliced by knives. Especially her 5 viscera and 6 bowels, it felt like they were being fried. But she completely did not care about the pain on her body. The pain in her heart was already indescribable. The moment Miao Xiao Miao opened her eyes, the once familiar world once again entered her eyes. An unexpected sadness rose in her heart. She just lay quietly on the bed, tears slowly flowing down her cheeks, wetting the pillow. Before she came, that intense hope and that sweetness that came from the bottom of her heart had already filled her heart. But in the short half a day since she arrived at the evil Monarch Manor, or perhaps in the time it took to brew a cup of tea, everything had disappeared with a single sentence from Jun Moxie. Mo Jun Yi was an illusion. Mo Jun Yi did not exist at all. In fact, he had never existed before. Then, even Mo Jun Yi was an illusion. His love was naturally also an illusion. Even his voice and smile, his talent and elegance, everything. Could it be that everything was just a lie? Everything was just a disguise for the sake of Jun Moxie, the evil monarch, in the Misty Mansion? It was a complete hoax. The moment she thought of all these, Miao Xiao Miao could be said to be filled with despair. So the existence that she viewed as more important than her own life, the existence that she was willing to give up everything for, the love that a woman could give, was actually just a lie designed by someone else. And it was just a game that a powerful figure had casually set up. As for herself, that day, she had actually voluntarily sent herself to his doorstep. Even after being rejected, she still did not realize it. People who hit the wall would always know to turn back. But she, after hitting the wall, even when her head was bleeding, she still continued to hit it. Just like that, she had stupidly charged in, like a fish that had forcefully barged into a fisherman's fishing net. Like a moth that had broken through the cover of a lantern, pouncing towards the candlelight. She had actually done so without any hesitation, so stupidly. She had broken her heart for him, yearned for him to the bone, risked her life for him, offered up everything for him, and made a vow for him for all eternity. But all of this was just a lie. As for the reason why Jun Moxie had entered the Misty Mansion in disguise, Miao Xiao Miao was not concerned at all. In fact, she did not even want to think about it. Because, since Jun Moxie had entered the Misty Mansion with his own goals, then no matter what he did, it was all for himself. Regarding this, Miao Xiao Miao could understand, completely understand. Even if they were enemies, they had their own standpoint. This point had always been clear to Miao Xiao Miao. So, previously when Jun Moxie had explained to her, she did not question or reprimand him. She even had a trace of envy and jealousy in her heart. He was actually willing to think so much for his woman, to do so much, but what she could not accept was that she had fallen into the trap of this love. The only thing she got was a lie. As a young girl who had given up everything for love, this was the most unacceptable and extremely cruel thing to do. As a young girl, she could accept that the person she loved was the enemy of the world, but she could still love him to death. She could also know that the person she loved was a complete bad guy who was despised by the world, but she still could not change her inner feelings. But she could not accept a small lie between the person she loved, because it was a blasphemy and trampling on true love. So, Miao Xiao Miao would rather accept the Mo Jun Yi that did not really exist, and let him live in her memory forever, but she was not willing to accept the living Jun Moxie in front of her. Although Mo Jun Yi did not exist, but Miao Xiao Miao believed in her true love. Because there was sustenance, even if it was an illusion. But if she believed that Jun Moxie was Mo Jun Yi, it would undoubtedly overturn all her sweetness. So, Miao Xiao Miao chose not to admit it, no matter what. Because as long as there was Mo Jun Yi in her heart, this love would still exist. The reason why Miao Xiao Miao chose to be so extreme and resolute was ultimately because she could not bear to. This love she could not bear to the ends of the earth, to the underworld. She could not bear to part with him forever. So, she could not forgive Jun Moxie, she could even hate Jun Moxie, but she did not have a single word of complaint towards the illusory Mo Junyi. Even though these two matters were so contradictory, this was the real hidden thought in Miao Xiaomiao's heart. But it seemed that even Miao Xiaomiao herself did not know how this thought came about. In fact, she did not even know or understand what was going on in her heart. She only felt that her heart was in a mess. It couldn't be cut. It was even messy. Perhaps everyone felt that it was strange and incomprehensible, but as long as there was an example, everyone would be able to understand. This was like the modern world of online dating. A man cheated on a woman on the internet, or the woman cheated on the man. Whether this kind of cheating was intentional or not, one thing was certain. In order to obtain the other party's true love, one would have to give their feelings first. Then this was the cheating of feelings. One day, when one of them found out the other's true colors, they would gnash their teeth in hatred towards the person on the internet. But looking at the silent profile picture on QQ, the familiar nickname, they would still overflow with tenderness and heartbreak. They could hate the real person to the point of life and death, but for the illusory nickname, they would still unknowingly give their own sorrow. And that was still giving their feelings. Every time they thought of this, they would gnash their teeth towards someone, but every time they thought of that nickname, they would always be heartbroken and dejected. Wasn't this contradictory? Footsteps sounded softly, and a wisp of faint fragrance wafted over. Mei Shuiyan came to her bed softly. This chapter is a gift of 400 words, the last paragraph about online dating. If you don't like it, you can skip it. Miao Xiaomiao's plot, in the final analysis, is just a description of an online relationship. Therefore, it is both misty and illusory, and that is why it is called Misty Misty Mansion. In my heart, Misty Misty Mansion is the internet. I have had online love before, and I have also been hurt, very deeply. I might not have written this paragraph to your liking, and I apologize for that. After writing this paragraph, it is like overcoming the devil in my heart. Maybe you won't understand this kind of thinking. As for yesterday's chapter, June Moxie's explanation was superfluous. Actually, that is also my inner thought. I value relationships very much. Especially. Therefore, in my heart, career and success are not as important as my family, not as important as the person I love. If one day I can make such a choice, I think I will also say, I love the country, but I love the beauty more. Between career and relationships, I think I will choose relationships. This is my persistence. I am very silly, many people have said that, and I admit it myself. Or maybe people like me will never achieve great things, but I feel that I am very happy. My heart is very peaceful. To me, this is happiness. In reality, I am a powerless and sentimental person, but I am sentimental, and I call myself a person who has tender feelings for the fairer sex, but I can't do it at all. Isn't it very sad? But my motto in this life is, have a clear conscience, do everything, and live up to your conscience. Even if I die, I don't want to feel ashamed and guilty. Or maybe someone will let me down, but I don't want to let anyone down. This is my pursuit. Or maybe it is too idealistic, but when I write these words, it has not changed. I have finished, thank you again. Chapter 11:01. Opening her eyes and seeing Mei Shuiyan sitting beside her, taking care of her, Miao Xiaomiao suddenly felt a strange sense of panic. However, even she herself did not know where this sudden panic came from. She only knew that she actually did not dare to face her, and felt very guilty. Are you feeling better? Mei Shuiyan smiled lightly as she sat by the side of the bed. Miao Xiaomiao nodded her head silently. You're really stubborn, why do you have to do this? Mei Shuiyan sighed lightly. Miao Xiaomiao gritted her teeth, forcefully holding back the tears that were about to spill out. Turning her head stubbornly, she buried her face in the pillow. Actually, Mo Xie had never thought of entangling himself with you from the start. Mei Shuiyan said faintly, you are a very outstanding woman. You have a rare beauty in the secular world. You are intelligent and talented. You have an extraordinary foundation in Xian cultivation. You also have an extremely powerful family background. All of these are enough to be proud of. We all admit that, but you should think about it. Can you really reach the level where a saint venerable expert, an overlord who stands at the peak of the Xian continent, like Jun Moxie, would fall head over heels for you? Mei Xuan opened her mouth, and the moment she opened her mouth, it was a direct blow. Miao Xiaomiao had originally thought that Mei Xuan was here to persuade her, or to put in a good word for the evil monarch. But when she heard these strange words, she could not help but be stunned for a moment, and did not know how to react. Although Mei Xuan's words were not pleasant to the ears, and there was even a hint of jealousy in them, they were also the truth. She indeed did not have the qualifications. Or rather, in this world, no woman had that kind of qualifications. Mo Xie has never lacked women. So, he won't have any thoughts about you. At least, he won't use the kind of deceit that you think he is. Mei Xuan said slowly. Let's not talk about anything else. Just look at the time when Mo Xie's reputation had yet to be established, and he was deliberately enduring. Even when he was still carrying the infamy of a debauchee, as long as Grandpa Jun gave the word, I believe that the entire Tianxiang kingdom would have tens of thousands of families wishing to send their daughters into the Jun residence. Send it to Mo Xie's bed. Many of these girls may not be as talented as you in terms of family background, but in terms of appearance, they may not be inferior to you. The power behind you means nothing to Jun Moxie. Back then, Tian Fa was already on the decline, and I was almost at the end of my rope. At that time, the 3 Holy Lands were drooling over Mo Xie's unique medicinal pills. So long as Mo Xie relented, the 3 Holy Lands would immediately turn their enmity with the Jun family into a friendship. And the Jun family would then become the 3 Holy Lands' honored guests. And the only person he wanted to abandon was me. At that time, Mo Xie only had the cultivation of Tianxian. You can imagine how difficult it was for him to go against the 3 Holy Lands with his insignificant strength at that time. But he still didn't have that choice. He didn't even think about it. He directly gave up the opportunity to become the 3 Holy Lands' honored guest to help me. He came to go through the countless waves of life and death with me. Mei Xuan sighed and said, I believe that it's hard for you to understand. In fact, it's hard for you to even imagine that a little kid with the cultivation of Tianxian would have to face the venerable, saint, and holy Emperor Hedong. Moreover, he would have to face not just 1 or 2 people, but a large group of experts. And he would have to face a dangerous situation where he would be alone and helpless. What kind of terrifying pressure would he have to face? Miao Xiaomiao's mind was drawn into contemplation by Mei Xuan's words. She had to admit that everything that Jun Moxie had done along the way was a crazy choice for ordinary people and those who were at the same cultivation level as Jun Moxie at that time. They were all inconceivable choices. No matter what it was, a normal person would not have done it as decisively as Jun Moxie. How much pressure would it be? He didn't even dare to think about it. Actually, that kind of terrifying pressure that bordered on despair was something she had experienced before. That day, when Mo Junyi was ambushed by the experts of the Zhan family, she had stepped forward to save him. At the same time, she had to face 6 enemy venerable experts. In that instant, when her status had lost its effect, she had almost collapsed. Fortunately, that miraculous demonic sword had appeared and killed 6 people, saving the 2 of them. Although that feeling of despair had only lasted for a moment, it was still unforgettable. That day, she had jumped out without hesitation, knowing that her impulsive action would not help the situation and would only cost her life. But her choice was very similar to Jun Moxie's. There was no other reason other than for the person she loved. And why am I thinking of that bad guy again? That year, when he was only in Earth Shen Tianxian, he did not care much about the 3 Holy Lands. But now, Mo Xie has single-handedly established the evil Monarch Manor, and even unified the Tian Fa forest. The number of saint experts under the Holy Emperor number in the thousands. Tens of thousands of venerable experts and above, millions of Shenxian experts and above. Mei Xuan's voice was filled with pride. Do you think that he would care about a misty mansion now? Would he lie to your feelings just for the sake of building a connection to the misty mansion? Is that possible? It's ridiculous. Miao Xiaomiao raised her head and looked at Mei Xuan in a daze. Right now, Mei Xuan's face was filled with pride. This pride had nothing to do with herself, but came from her man. Because Jun Moxie was indeed worthy of Mei Xuan's pride. Pressure could also be a source of motivation. The so-called legend was a story that turned the impossible into the possible, and the person who turned the hopeless situation around was the legend who wrote this miracle. The world is vast, and there are many extraordinary people. However, to be like Mo Xie, to be able to go from almost nothing to becoming the #1 force in the world in just a few years, there is only one person, and he is my husband. This kind of achievement is legendary, unparalleled and unparalleled. Mei Xuan's beautiful eyes were filled with pride. Mo Wudao cannot do it. Shi Ruochen cannot do it. Huyan Aobo cannot do it either. Little sister Xiao Miao, even your grandfather, Miao Jingyun, cannot be compared to Mo Xie. Even the 9 Nether first young master, the pioneer of Xian Qi in the entire Xian continent, cannot compare. From ancient times to the future, there is no one who can do it. There is only one person who can do it, and that is my husband, Jun Moxie. Mei Xuan said lightly, but there was an indisputable certainty in her voice. But he still lied to me. No matter how amazing he is, he still lied to me. Miao Xiaomiao said weakly, her voice getting softer and softer. If not for Mei Xuan's Xian cultivation, she would not have been able to hear the last sentence. He lied to you? No, he did not lie to you. From the start to the end, he did not lie to you. Do you think you are worth his lying to? Mei Xuan snorted lightly and said, the reason he entered the Misty Mansion this time was for us sisters. For our long future. After defeating the allied forces of the 3 Holy Lands, the Mo Xie at that time had full confidence. He was no longer as fearful as before. At that time, he had the ability and confidence to ensure our safety. So he started to think about the future, to think about the longer term. As for using the exquisite lotus and the 7-colored holy fruit to maintain his looks, it was me who reminded him. Mei Xuan raised her eyebrows and said, Sister Xiao Miao, let me ask you this. If Mo Xie had defeated the allied forces of the 3 Holy Lands and proposed a marriage proposal to the Misty Mansion, according to your guess, how confident would the Misty Mansion be in accepting the proposal? How confident would they be? Miao Xiaomiao's heart skipped a beat and she started to ponder. The more she thought, the paler her face became. After a long time, she said slowly, the most conservative estimate would be about 30%. But there are many girls in the Misty Mansion, it might not be my turn. Alright, even if there is only a 30% chance, even if it might not be you. Mei Xuan smiled lightly. What if this proposal was changed to now? Now that Mo Xie has established the evil monarch manner and displayed our strength, how confident would we be in proposing a marriage proposal to the Misty Mansion? As for the Misty Mansion, who would be the most likely candidate? Miao Xiaomiao's face turned even paler. After pondering for a long time, her eyes finally dimmed and she lowered her head lightly. 100%? It must be 100%. There will definitely not be any obstacles. I will also be the only candidate. I will also be the only candidate. Grandpa will not give this opportunity to anyone. I will definitely fight for it. Yes, this was the benefit of having strength. He was the youngest holy venerable expert since ancient times, the youngest overlord since ancient times, the #1 genius since ancient times. The evil monarch, Jun Moxie. Although Miao Xiaomiao was resisting with all her might in her heart, she had to admit that when all these factors came together, it would be an irresistible force. Although the Misty Mansion was powerful, they would definitely not fall out with the evil monarch just because of a woman like her. If Jun Moxie went to the Misty Mansion to propose a marriage proposal, the most likely scenario would be for both parties to sit down and discuss, and then the Miao family would marry her off in a grand fashion. Even if there was really a Mo Junyi, even if Mo Junyi was a prodigy with the free and natural physique, as long as Jun Moxie insisted that he must have her, and did not mind how far Miao Xiaomiao had progressed with a certain someone, then Miao Xiaomiao and Mo Junyi would only end up parting ways. In fact, If that person was not a prodigy with the free and natural physique, he might even have to face death. At that time, even if she wanted to die, she wouldn't be able to. Because the Misty Mansion would send people to watch over her day and night, for fear of any accidents. This was not because the Misty Mansion was afraid of the evil Monarch Manor, but because the two powers were wary of each other. Once a war broke out, it would definitely end with both sides perishing. As long as they successfully married Miao Xiao Miao over, and the two of them got married, it would be a powerful alliance that would be of great help to them. The main reason for this outcome was that the evil monarch, Jun Moxie, was publicly known as a lunatic. This fellow was famous for being unscrupulous and unbridled. The most terrifying thing was that the evil Monarch Manor was ruled by Jun Moxie alone. If he said to start a war, then it would start immediately. No one in the evil Monarch Manor would object. Chapter 1102. In truth, whether it was the Manor Lord Miao Jingyun, or the elders of the Miao family, or even Miao Xiao Miao's father, Miao Huanyu, no matter how much they pained Miao Xiao Miao, no matter how much they couldn't bear to part with her, they would not be too insistent on this matter. In fact, they would even try their best to fight for this opportunity. If the jewel of the Miao family were to be married to the most powerful person in the Xian continent, it would definitely solidify the power of the Miao family in the Misty Mansion. This was a good thing that one could only dream of. This was the cruelty of reality, and also the sorrow of the aristocratic families. This was also the most realistic aspect of showing the benefits of great power. I've spoken frankly enough. I believe you understand now that if Mo Xie were to really propose, you would have no other choice. No matter how stubborn you are, even if you die immediately after marrying over, your tombstone can only be engraved with the name Madame June, not the daughter of the Miao family. If this really happened, there would be no need for Mo Xie to ask for it. The Miao family would take the initiative to ask for it. Mei Shuiyan Lengleng said, since that's the case, if he could just curl his finger and someone would send you over after washing you clean, why would he lie to you? Is there any meaning to it? He's not the kind of person who looks like he has nothing better to do. Miao Xiao Miao could hear the coldness in Mei Shuiyan's voice, and she became even more flustered. Her heart was thumping wildly, and she did not dare to retort for a long time. Back then, when he took the initiative to get close to you, he rejected you more than once. It was your stubbornness that pushed you to the edge of life and death. The reason why Mo Xie was willing to accept you was because he wanted to save you, but it was also because he felt helpless. If it wasn't for this reason, I would never believe that Mo Xie would accept a woman so casually. No matter who that woman is, it's impossible. Mei Shuiyan said calmly, but the reason he entered the Misty Mansion was for us. That's why we don't blame him. We chose to understand him and were even willing to tolerate that woman. As for you, you're just making things difficult for yourself. Mo Junyi and Jun Moxie were the same person. In other words, from the beginning to the end, there was only Mo Xie. However, you insist on separating them and replacing the non-existent Mo Junyi with a living person. In the end, it's just because you can't accept this deception that you believe to be true. It doesn't mean that Mo Junyi isn't Jun Moxie. It's because you think you've been deceived that you start to question the sincere feelings you had in the Misty Mansion. You stubbornly believe that you have sacrificed a lot, so you should receive the same in return. However, you feel that you haven't received that return, so your heart is unbalanced. Mei Shuiyan said sharply, in the end, this is actually a very simple matter. He didn't lie to me. Why would you say that? Miao Xiao Miao's eyes widened. Even with your intelligence, you're still struggling with this problem? He can't tell you frankly, isn't it because of his identity? The Misty Mansion was his biggest secret. How could he be honest with you? Should he have said to you at that time, Miao Xiao Miao, don't like me, because I'm not Mo Junyi. Mo Junyi is just a non-existent illusion. I'm Jun Moxie. I came to the Misty Mansion for the rainbow holy fruit, not for you, Miao Xiao Miao? Mei Shuiyan smiled and said, he didn't go to the Misty Mansion to deceive you. Her eyes looked deeply at Miao Xiao Miao. To put it more clearly, the purpose of him going to the Misty Mansion was not to obtain your feelings, not to obtain your body, and definitely not for your chastity. In the process of interacting with you, Mo Xie has always been in a passive position. When has he ever taken the initiative? Since his goal was never you, and he never took the initiative, he only rejected you. Did he not tell you that he already has a wife who loves him deeply at home? Or did he not tell you that the only person he truly cares about is his wife at home? He should have said it before. Everyone has their own opinions. How can the word deceive be used? Whether you gave your body to Mo Junyi or to Jun Moxie, in the end, it's all your own business. 'Cause you did it willingly, no one forced you. Even the feelings that came from you, to Mo Xie, are simply compulsive. So, the one who should feel the injustice is not you, but Mo Xie. The ones who should feel the most grievance are the women at home, not you. As intelligent as you are, do you really not understand? Mei Shuiyan said lightly, Mo Xie chose to tell you the truth now, in the end, because of his sense of responsibility. As a man, no matter what his original intention was, the result has already been like this, so he should take responsibility for his woman. He doesn't want to feel guilty for the rest of his life, and he doesn't want to see your fragrant soul disappear. Let me ask you, which man in the world can do this? Sister Xiao Miao, don't hold on to that pointless persistence anymore. A woman can be stubborn, can be persistent, but don't be stubborn and persistent to the point where you and the man who loves you hate you. Once that happens, you're destined to be a tragedy. Mo Xie is a person who can pick up and let go. Once he really lets it go, it's impossible for him to pick it up again. At this moment, think about it carefully, and take good care of your body. If you think it through, I will help you with the work of other sisters, and we will be good sisters together. If you still can't think it through, you don't need to go through Jun Moxie, just tell me, and I will immediately send someone to send you back to Misty Mansion. You are still the pearl of the Miao family, no one will know about what happened today, and no one will pursue this matter. No matter what choice you make, it's all in your heart. After saying that, Mei Shuiyan didn't stay any longer. She stood up, and only left a faint reminder, rest well, before preparing to leave. For a woman like Miao Xiao Miao, with such a stubborn temper, Mei Shuiyan knew that if she only comforted her, it would only make things worse, and make her stubbornly go further and further down the wrong path. So, it was better to directly wake her up. Everything that could be said, everything that couldn't be said, everything that should be said, and everything that shouldn't be said, was laid out on the table. So, Mei Shuiyan didn't hesitate to reverse some of the things that Miao Xiao Miao had done to protect Jun Moxie, and gave her an alternative, severe warning. And Mei Shuiyan was also a decisive person, and that was all she said. If Miao Xiao Miao really couldn't think it through, and insisted on her own opinion, then, no matter how unwilling Jun Moxie was, no matter how sad Jun Moxie was, no matter how resentful he would be towards Mei Shuiyan would resolutely send Miao Xiao Miao away. She would never let her stay, and let Jun Moxie continue to suffer for a long time. Jun Mo Xie was a decisive person, and Mei Shuiyan was also someone who would do what she said. For women like Mei Shuiyan, Guan Qinghan, Jun Moxie was a treasure that they cared for with all their heart, and they couldn't wait to love him. They wouldn't allow anyone to hurt him in the slightest. So, whether Miao Xiao Miao stayed or left, was in the hands of Mei Shuiyan. Sister Shuiyan? Miao Xiao Miao suddenly struggled to sit up, and her voice was weak, with an obvious pleading tone. Have a good rest, and think about it carefully. If you've thought it through, send someone to inform me. Mei Shuiyan didn't turn around. Our Jun family doesn't need a disobedient daughter-in-law, and we don't need a woman who holds resentment towards her man. No matter how powerful that woman is, or how strong her background is, no one can be an exception. Even if Mo Xie is the evil monarch, even if he can defeat the 9 Nether First Young Master, but in this family I, Mei Shuiyan, am still the one calling the shots. Don't worry, whether you stay or leave is up to me. You don't need to have any misgivings. No matter what choice you make, it's all up to you, and as you wish. To Miao Xiao Miao, Mei Shuiyan's words were like an ultimatum. Then, Mei Shuiyan walked out. But when she reached the door, she stopped and still didn't turn around. Oh, right, this is Mo Xie's bedroom. You're sleeping on his bed now. If you have any grudges, I can change it for you. Then, with a flash of white, Mei Shuiyan's figure disappeared from the door. Miao Xiao Miao fell heavily back onto the pillow, and her heart was in a daze. 2 drops of tears rolled down her cheeks, quietly falling onto the pillow. Junyi, what should I do? Junyi? Suddenly, Miao Xiao Miao thought of another matter. Mo Junyi Junmoxi, although these 2 names looked completely different, but the pronunciation of the 2, wasn't it the same 3 words that messed up the order? Or it should be said that when Jun Moxie entered Misty Mansion, he used his own name to give Misty Mansion a hint. It's just that this hint was a little vague. No wonder. Miao Xiao Miao smiled miserably. She forced herself to open her lifeless eyes again, and suddenly another sentence popped out from the bottom of her heart. That day, before Mo Junyi left Misty Mansion, he asked her this. Meow meow, if I leave Misty Mansion and never come back, are you willing to live with me in the outside world? At that time, she replied, I'm yours. No matter where you go, I'll follow. No matter the ends of the earth, no matter heaven or hell, if you're there, I'll be there. At that time, she didn't think much of it. She just felt that her sweetheart's question was a little strange. But now that she thought about it, these words were clearly Jun Moxie testing her attitude. What should I do? What should I do? Outside the door, there was also someone talking to Mei Shuiyan. It was Guan Qinghan. Big Sister Shui Yen, aren't you being too direct? Isn't the impact a little too great? What if this girl can't think it through and gets stuck in a dead end? What should we do? If that happens, it won't be easy for us to step down. Guan Qinghan said worriedly. In fact, Guan Qinghan came here with Mei Shuiyan. She just stopped at the door and didn't go in. As for the conversation between Mei Shuiyan and Miao Xiao Miao, she heard it all. She felt that Mei Shuiyan's words were a little too harsh today. But Miao Xiao Miao is also a very decisive woman. It can be seen from her way of doing things. Coupled with her family's background, she might not be any worse than you and me. Right now, she just hasn't figured it out yet. I believe she can definitely think it through. But then again, if she really can't think it through, I definitely won't force her to stay on behalf of Emosia. Even if Emosia objects, it will still be the same. Chapter 1103. Mei Shuiyan said softly. We've spent so much time with Emosia, don't tell me we still don't know what kind of person he is? On the surface, he looks evil, vicious, and venomous. But towards the people around him, he's the most loyal. Especially towards those that he acknowledges, he cares about them to the extreme. If Miao Xiao Miao can't figure it out and let them continue to pester him like this, I'm afraid it'll affect Mo Xie's state of mind greatly. So, even if some things are too much, even if they're cruel, and even unreasonable, but we still have no choice but to do it. We must do it. Because Mo Xie doesn't only have us, he also has the lives of Tian Fa and the evil Monarch Manor on his back. There mustn't be any mistakes. Even the slightest flaw in his state of mind is enough to cause the entire foundation to collapse. We must not be careless. Mei Shuiyan said slowly. The real problem now is that this last Miao Xiao Miao's temper is really too stubborn. This has to do with her identity and background. Her life has always been smooth sailing, and it's really hard for her to endure any storms. The only difficulty she faced previously was also because of the unexpected intervention of Mo Junyi and her own unwillingness to give up pursuing it. So, in her eyes, only being flawless is the true meaning of perfection. And it's precisely because of this that she can't tolerate any flaws in this relationship of hers. Right now, the only thing we can do is to wake her up as soon as possible to make this matter truly perfect. Otherwise, I believe that if she continues to cause trouble like this, and Mo Xie really gets angry, then there'll be no turning back. At that time, even if Miao Xiao Miao wants to turn back, she won't be able to. My starting point is to help her. Naturally, everything still depends on how Miao Xiao Miao's thoughts change. If by any chance, instead of letting Mo Xie be the bad guy, I'd rather do it. Guan Qinghan slowly nodded her head and said sincerely, Sister Shui Yen is right. It's just that it's really hard on Sister. It's Emo Xie who caused trouble, but sister has to clean up the aftermath for him. It's really, Mei Shuiyan reached out to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear and smiled slightly. This action was filled with a gentle and beautiful aura. Even a beauty like Guan Qinghan could not help but stare at it. We're already his people. How can we not think about it? He's done so many things for us, so how can we not do our best to share his burdens? Previously, I tried my best to raise the strength of the sisters, hoping that we can be of help to him in the future. Even if we can't be of help, at least we can't be a hindrance or a burden. Qinghan, among the sisters, apart from me, you're the oldest. I hope you can help me supervise them. It's not that easy to be Jun Moxie's woman. Mei Shuiyan said softly. I've finally understood sister's painstaking efforts today. When the time is right, I'll pass on sister's intentions to the other sisters and urge them to raise their strength. Just like what sister said, it's not that easy to be Mo Xie's woman. Guan Qinghan nodded her head in agreement. Qinghan, I still have something to ask you, Mei Shuiyan said in a low voice as they walked. When she said this, Mei Shuiyan's eyes were watery and her cheeks were red. She seemed to want to say something, but stopped herself. She looked bashful and didn't have the elegant demeanor of a moment ago. What is it? Please advise me, sister. Guan Qinghan followed behind Mei Shuiyan. At this moment, she was full of admiration for Mei Shuiyan, but she didn't notice the abnormality in Mei Shuiyan. She couldn't figure out what Mei Shuiyan was interested in. Why did she need to ask her? I just wanted to ask. I heard that a woman's first time is very painful. Mei Shuiyan blushed and said hesitantly, Qinghan, didn't you and Mo Xie do that? How does that feel? How painful is it? Guan Qinghan's face turned red and she was so embarrassed that she couldn't speak. She didn't think that Mei Shuiyan would suddenly ask such a question. She said bitterly, Sister Shuiyan, are you talking about? I didn't hear you. We're a family, good sisters. Mei Shuiyan hugged Guan Qinghan's neck and whispered into her ear. Just say it, what's the big deal? Besides, Miao Xiao Miao has already taken a step ahead. Among all the sisters, you're the only one who has done it with that bad person. I'm not afraid of you laughing at me, but sometimes I'm a little envious of you. Guan Qinghan's beautiful face was so red that it seemed as if blood was about to drip out. She looked around furtively and gloomily transmitted her voice. Elder sister, you don't know, that guy was drugged with an aphrodisiac at that time, and he tossed and turned for an entire night. I almost died, so how could I remember what it felt like? And you say you envy me, really? Guan Qinghan was right. Among all the women, her first time was probably the most cruel and dangerous. That time, she almost lost her life. After that, she felt pain for half a month, so how could she feel anything else? That's true. I remember that day when Xiao Yi drugged Mo Xie, Chen Sun and I were on the big tree next to the tent. We saw you go in and get pounced on by that guy, but we didn't notice anything unusual. Before Mei Shuiyan finished, Guan Qinghan, who was so embarrassed that she couldn't speak, was shocked and stammered, At that time, you and Chen Sun were watching from the tree outside? Yes, we saw it clearly. That guy was like a ferocious beast. No, even ferocious beasts aren't as ferocious as him. Mei Shuiyan nodded and looked at Guan Qinghan. She teased, yes, it was really intense at that time. Guan Qinghan covered her face. She was so ashamed that she stomped her feet. She thought that besides Jun Moxie and herself, no one else was there. Even Jun Moxie's memory wasn't very clear because of the aphrodisiac. She thought that she was the only one who could keep the secret. She never thought that such a private and embarrassing thing would be seen from the beginning to the end by two other people. Moreover, these two people were her sisters. This was really embarrassing to death. She didn't have the face to see anyone. It was killing her. Guan Qinghan subconsciously squatted on the ground and refused to raise her head. Mei Shuiyan laughed and said, What's wrong? Are you embarrassed? What's wrong? You're asking me what's wrong? Guan Qinghan was embarrassed, anxious, and angry. She suddenly jumped up and clawed at Mei Shuiyan. Her face was red and her teeth were clenched. Mei Shuiyan screamed and turned to escape. She didn't have the demeanor of a super strong person. The two beauties chased and ran. In the blink of an eye, they went through a few corridors and turned a few corners. Suddenly, they saw someone walking slowly in front of them. If it wasn't June Moxie, who else could it be? What are you doing? June Dashao was really surprised. What was going on in front of them? Guan Qinghan was chasing Mei Xuan? Oh my god, why was this happening? These two were the most stable among the girls. What was going on today? Moreover, with Mei Xuan's strength, she didn't even need to make a move. She could probably blow Guan Qinghan away. But the situation now was that Mei Xuan was begging for mercy, while Guan Qinghan didn't give up. June Dashao's head was in a knot and he stood there in a daze. Looking up, it was actually June Moxie who was blocking in front of her. Guan Qinghan screamed and looked at June Moxie. It was unknown what she was thinking, but her face was as red as fire. She lowered her head and walked away like a gust of wind. From the looks of it, she didn't know where she was going. But when she looked at June Moxie, her eyes were intoxicated. She was so flirtatious that it made one's imagination run wild. It made June Moxie's heart itch. A certain fire rose in him and he almost had a nosebleed and collapsed on the spot. What was Qinghan thinking about? Why are those eyes so ambiguous, so seductive? Should I become a night walker at night? June Moxie shamelessly thought about it. His eyes were shining with green light. What's wrong with Qinghan? Young Master June suppressed his anger and looked at Mei Xuan who was panting softly. He scratched his head and asked in bewilderment. Why are you a man asking so many questions about women's matters? Why are you so nosy? It could be seen that Mei Xuan also felt a little embarrassed. She snorted coquettishly and reprimanded him. Then she disappeared with a swoosh. Damn, are these two women talking about eroticism or something? Maybe the object of their fantasies is this young master. June Dashao held his chin with his hand and a wicked light flashed in his eyes. Then he suddenly laughed and let his imagination run wild. It had to be said that someone's intuition was quite accurate. Oh, by the way, don't disturb Miao Xiao Miao for the time being. Let her think about it in peace. When she has thought through everything, everything will come naturally. Remember, haste makes waste. Mei Xuan revealed her head from afar and transmitted her voice to him. The phrase, haste makes waste, completely destroyed the boundless desire that had just risen in June Moxie's heart. He immediately fell into a state of entanglement, worrying about gains and losses. After a while, June Dashao let out a long sigh and turned around to leave. It was nighttime. The moonlight was hazy and the clouds were floating. A large amount of fog was shrouding the periphery of the Tian Fa forest. If one looked from afar, it would look like a dream world. Miao Xiao Miao stood alone in front of the window and looked at the bright moon in the sky. Even she herself didn't know what she was thinking. After knowing that this was June Moxie's room, for some reason, Miao Xiao Miao didn't resist and didn't ask to move out. She just sat there in a daze. Other than some almost inaudible snoring coming from afar, it was almost silent. The wind blew gently and the clouds floated lightly. The bright moon hung in the sky, illuminating the world. The ancient trees of Tian Fa stood quietly. Only the thin branches and leaves on the treetops swayed gently. However, they didn't make a single sound. This was a gentle and beautiful night. Chapter 1104. June? Miao Xiao Miao murmured softly. Tears had long drowned those beautiful eyes. She had already formed a habit. Every time she was happy, in pain, or in confusion, she would call out this name. It was as if only by calling out this name she would be able to calm down and no longer have any negative feelings. However, at this moment, when she subconsciously shouted out the same two words, it had completely lost the effect of the past. But she only felt that her heart was in a mess. The night was deep, and the moon in the sky was already slightly off. Miao Xiao Miao continued to stand there in a daze. For a long time, she didn't move at all. This is June Moxie's room. If I'm staying here, then where is he staying? Will he be staying in the room of those beautiful sisters? With that thought, Meow Xiao Meow was shocked to discover that a sour jealousy rose in her heart. He's a Mojuni. Why? She sobbed painfully, but she didn't realize that when she thought of Mei Xuan, Guan Qinghan, and the rest, she had unconsciously used the term, those beautiful sisters, to express her approval. Suddenly, a long howl rang out, carrying with it an ethereal feeling of being one with the heavens and earth, and filled with an unreal feeling. Meow Xiao Meow's heart skipped a beat, and she almost subconsciously looked in that direction. June Moxie's room naturally had the best view in the entire evil Monarch manor, and was also the most spacious room. From here, Tianyi seemed to be right in front of her eyes. Then, Meow Xiao Meow's eyes suddenly widened to the extreme. In a faraway place, in the forest, a leisurely white figure floated into the sky. His ascension was so slow and graceful, as if there was something beneath his feet supporting him, slowly rising into the boundless night sky. June Moxie, what is he trying to do? Meow Xiao Meow's heart skipped a beat as she looked over. June Moxie was very depressed in his heart. To him, the situation in front of him was an embarrassing thing that had never happened in his 2 lives. So after dinner, he ran away alone. The young Master June went into the Tian Fa forest by himself. Then he randomly chose a big tree and jumped up. Then he lay down on the tree branch, using his arm as a pillow, closed his eyes and pretended to sleep. This was the method he kept to relax himself in his previous life, and it had always been a very effective method. But tonight, June Moxie discovered that this method, which had always been effective, seemed to have lost its effectiveness. He couldn't calm down no matter what. After a long time, the surroundings were quiet, but his heart was getting more and more restless. Helplessly opening his eyes, looking at the gentle moonlight in the sky, June Moxie smiled bitterly and said, "You're still the best. No matter where I go, I can still see you. No matter which world you're in, you're always so carefree, quiet and tranquil. In the blink of an eye, the sea has turned into mulberry fields, even the whole world has changed, but you're still so calm and tranquil. What worries could the moon know?" The watery moonlight was still quietly shining on his body. It was still cold, still gentle and tranquil. Looking at the distant moonlight, June Moxie let out a long sigh and suddenly became silent. He suddenly remembered what he had unintentionally said earlier. No matter which world you're in, you're always so carefree, quiet and tranquil. In the blink of an eye, the sea has turned into mulberry fields, even the whole world has changed, but you're still so calm and tranquil. In the blink of an eye, June Moxie seemed to have understood something. This momentary epiphany actually allowed him to enter a transcendent state of mind as calm as still water from his extremely distraught state. This was equivalent to going from extreme chaos to extreme stillness. From one extreme limit to the opposite extreme limit. The most extreme contrast. And the entire process didn't even take a second. But this change from extreme chaos to extreme stillness had given June Moxie a kind of transcendental enlightenment. At this moment, a dam in his heart was like a broken mirror, shattering into fine powder. There were no more obstacles. June Moxie's mind seemed to have risen into the distant night sky, boundless and limitless, allowing him to roam freely. Breakthrough. The art of unlocking heaven's fortune and the Hongjun Pagoda had broken through again. Unexpectedly, it had suddenly come at the time when June Moxie was most distressed. The moment June Moxie's body floated up, he finally couldn't help but let out a long and drawn-out roar. In that state of mind, June Moxie had actually thought through many things in an instant. Or it could be said that there were many words, many truths, all of them surging into his mind in that instant. Clearly seeing one's nature, my heart is the world. My body is between the world. The world is my heart. The world is like my heart. My heart is like the world. Everything in the world, everything in the world, everything in the world, everything in the world, only the heart, nothing more than this. With a single thought, wind and thunder can rise. With a single thought, all living things can vanish. My heart is the world, then my body is all living things in the world. Although the mountains and rivers do not move, when I move, the mountains and rivers will collapse. The world may be eternal, but when I die, the world will collapse. 1 pound can fight 10,000 jin, the softness of the extreme, but also the fierceness of the extreme. 1 force can subdue 10 techniques, the firmness of the extreme, the softness of the extreme. Hiwegang? What is softness? If I say hardness, then it is hardness. If I say softness, then it is softness. Thousands of miles of rivers, let me fly. The bright world, let me decide. Who is the hero? It is none other than me. Jun Moxie's body continued to maintain the most primitive lying position, slowly ascending. His arms still maintained their original position, still under his head. With such a strange posture, he slowly ascended, high above the forest, and gradually ascended into the sky. Although the momentum was slow, it did not seem to be declining. Suddenly, the thousands of thoughts in Jun Moxie's mind disappeared, leaving only an emptiness in his mind and an endless clarity in his mind. Just like that, he did a carp flip in the air, standing straight up in the void. Every movement he made was according to his will. Standing in the vast sky, it was as if his body was standing on solid ground, allowing him to make any movement at will without any difference. Truly without any difference. Jun Nemosie's heart was filled with joy, and he couldn't control himself as he laughed out loud. Then he stood up with his hands behind his back. His entire person was like a mortal who had ascended to immortality, and he soared into the sky like a rocket. His sleeves fluttered in the wind, his body outside the white clouds. 10,000 miles in the sky, only I stand alone. Overlooking the world, looking down on all living things. Yes, it was another breakthrough, and it was a comprehensive breakthrough. Not only did the Hongjun Pagoda and the art of unlocking heaven's fortune break through at the same time, Jun Moxie's own understanding of the martial way had also taken a huge step forward, and it was a huge step with profound significance. Originally, Jun Moxie's first strike was a sure kill, a sure kill. Every time he attacked, he would take the enemy's life as his starting point and ending point. In terms of facing an enemy, this was naturally the most effective and correct method of attack, because the most perfect defense was to attack. But it was easy to break when one was too hard. Blindly pressing forward would always leave a flaw. If one's attack was immediately stopped by the opponent, then one could only escape 1,000 miles away, completely not entangled with the opponent until the next opportunity to attack. Because his defense was not enough. Attack was the most perfect defense, but once the attack failed, the perfect flaw would also appear. Once a flaw appeared, perfection would naturally become a fatal weakness. Speaking of which, strong offense and weak defense had always been Jun Moxie's greatest weakness. Even Jun Moxie himself was aware of this, and had once urgently considered improving it. But in the end, it did not change. The creed that attack was the most perfect defense had long been imprinted in the depths of his soul. This was a habit that had existed for 2 lifetimes, and was also a tactic that suited his temperament. How could it be changed so easily? But this time, under this bright, gentle and all-embracing moonlight, Jun Moxie had an epiphany. Hardness and softness, a perfect fusion in the truest sense. Perfect and transparent. Softness was a type of strength, hardness was also a type of strength. Softness could be hardness, hardness could also be softness. This concept was very similar to Tai Chi, but it was different. Tai Chi was born from infinity, and its main purpose was to use softness to overcome hardness, to borrow strength to fight strength. But what Jun Moxie was thinking of now was a combination of hardness and softness, completely inseparable. At this moment, Jun Moxie had completely forgotten everything in the outside world, forgot where he was at the moment, forgot everything between heaven and earth. He only felt that his heart was filled with boundless joy, and he had to display all the martial arts that he had just comprehended in order to vent the joy in his heart. His feet shifted, and he made an irregular stance in midair. He slowly raised his hands, which were as soft as spring water. However, in the next moment, his hands that were originally raised up suddenly split into 2 and swiftly chopped down. With a slight tremble, he had already continuously trembled dozens of times in a row. If an expert with profound cultivation saw this scene, he would definitely refuse to believe what his eyes were seeing, or perhaps he would think that Jun Dashao was displaying some kind of sorcery, and could actually put such a thing that defied the laws of nature into practice. Because in the eyes of others, Jun Dashao had only gently raised his hands at the beginning, but the next moment, he had become like a 1,000-armed guanyin. Every movement was still extremely soft and clear, and no one would suspect that there was actually power in it. But in reality, every tremble was accompanied by an extremely strong force. His feet slid, his hands rose, his shoulders moved, his waist swayed, and his body was like a soft willow dancing in the wind. Every movement could be seen clearly, but inexplicably, there were a series of afterimages, and every afterimage had the same movement. They were all residual images from the previous moment, but these countless afterimages were able to stay in midair for a long time, without the slightest intention of dissipating. And as Jun Moxie's movements became faster and faster, the number of afterimages in midair also increased, and became denser and denser, gradually forming a large densely packed area in the sky. At first, it was only a radius of 3 to 2 zhang, but it gradually expanding to a radius of a few hundred zhang, then a few thousand zhang, and finally, there was only Jun Moxie's figure in the sky, forming a huge dark cloud of shadows in midair. From the beginning to the end, none of the afterimages had dissipated. Such a situation, it was actually like sorcery. Today's update completed. Recommend a new book. Chapter 1105. Miao Xiao Miao, who was leaning against the window in Jun Mosie's room, couldn't believe what she was seeing. Just what kind of technique was this evil monarch using? How was this something that a human could do? Looking at Jun Moxie leisurely strolling through the air, Miao Xiao Miao suddenly felt a sense of tranquility. It was as if this strange scene in front of her was able to bring her a sense of tranquility and comfort. And at this moment, it was no longer just a small number of people who had comprehended it. At this moment, from all the windows and even the empty ground, countless experts were staring at the sky at the same time. Almost everyone had an expression of comprehension on their faces. A strange light flashed in Mei Shuiyen's eyes. A sweet smile hung on her lips as she looked at the figure in the sky with boundless love. Among everyone present, she was the only one who understood Jun Moxie's advancement the most. So she was the only one who understood how huge Jun Moxie's breakthrough this time was. If the Jun Mosier of the past was said to be an indestructible sharp sword, then at this moment, this sharp sword had already transformed into an invisible sharp sword. It was still invincible, and the sharpness had not weakened at all. Instead, it had become even stronger. But no one would see it. All the sharpness had been restrained. What was the strongest enemy in the world? What is the most frightening enemy? It was an unknown enemy. It was an invisible enemy. If you didn't even know who your enemy was, and you couldn't even see him when he asked you to, then how would you deal with him? The current Jun Moxie was an invisible enemy to his enemies. This was different from the Hongjun Pagoda's ability to enter another space, and it was not the Yin-Yang escape's concealment. It was a unique domain technique that belonged to Jun Moxie. Solitary Eagle, Feng Wanyun, and the other members of the Heaven Destroyer and Spirit Devourer were all watching from their windows. In everyone's eyes, other than enlightenment, there was also a deep sense of respect and worship. This was the reverence of looking up to a great mountain. What Jun Moxie was displaying now was an extremely profound state. Even among the world's Saint Venerables, there might not even be one person who could comprehend this level of profoundness. It could even be said that so long as one had a slight understanding of this realm, even if it was just the tiniest bit, it would allow one to far surpass others and look down upon all others. As for the current Jun Moxie, he wasn't just peeking through the door. It was obvious that he had reached the realm of mastery, or even perfection. Perfect. Miao Zhan, Miao Dao, and Miao Jian raised their heads to look, a strange expression on their faces. Miao Zhan was watching and comprehending, and he even used his own Xian Qi to verify it. However, he was shocked to find that when he had just comprehended the artistic conception hidden in one of June Moxie's movements, he found that at this moment, the air was filled with the shadows of June Moxie. There were thousands of them, and slowly, they converged into an army of millions of figures. Every figure contained a profound comprehension. Every one of them was hiding a layer of superb artistic conception. Miao Dao and Miao Jian were equally intoxicated. Although their cultivation was slightly inferior and they could not immediately comprehend those concepts, they realized that this was definitely a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If they missed this chance, they might not have a second chance to see it for the rest of their lives. That would be a lifetime regret. Therefore, they were all watching with rapt attention, concentrating all their attention on memorizing it. Every bit they could memorize counted. At this moment, they no longer wished to comprehend, but only wished to memorize and memorize as much as possible. And the three of them had the same thought at the same time. When we return, we must definitely persuade the Manor Lord to build a good relationship with June Moxie. Even if it would be a little embarrassing to make use of the relationship by marriage, we must try our best to build a good relationship with the evil Monarch Manor. Even if we have to break off relations with the three Holy Lands because of this, we must not hesitate. The advantages outweigh the disadvantages. Because the speed of June Moxie's growth was simply too terrifying. Even geniuses with the free and natural physique did not have such a speed of improvement. Especially Miao Zhan. He clearly remembered that just yesterday, although June Moxie's cultivation was also at the Saint Venerable level, it was only on par with him and Miao Dao and Miao Jian. But in just the span of one night, June Moxie's cultivation had already improved to a height that they could not comprehend and could only look up to. And that improvement was the improvement of his own artistic conception. That was definitely not an improvement that could be brought about by an increase in cultivation. Epiphany, that was a qualitative improvement. If an expert had a chance of sudden enlightenment in his life, he would be able to rise to the top of the world. If he had 2 chances of sudden enlightenment, it would not be an extravagant hope for him to become a legend. As for 3 chances of sudden enlightenment, that would make him invincible. This was not just a matter of a person's innate talent, aptitude, cultivation, strength, but also a fortuitous encounter. And this evil monarch, June Moxie, had clearly obtained a sudden enlightenment at this moment. This was the reason why the 3 Saint Venerables had made up their minds. Which expert who had obtained sudden enlightenment did not go into seclusion for a long time and sense a sliver of heaven and earth chi before slowly grasping it and comprehending it? Who would be like June Moxie? In the afternoon, he was still furiously killing people, and in the evening, he had a sudden enlightenment? What kind of speed was this? What kind of fortuitous encounter was this? Could it be that after being rejected by someone and being heartbroken, it would bring about a breakthrough? Bring about sudden enlightenment? If that's the case, why don't we be more affectionate? The experts from the 3 Holy Lands looked at the figure in the sky with shock. This was the evil monarch. This was the true strength that the evil monarch possessed. This kind of strength, how terrifying was it? Right now, with the strength that June Moxie had displayed, even if a few peak Saint Venerables gathered together and attacked him at the same time, they might not be able to defeat him for sure. In fact, there were even a few who lost and died. To think that June Moxie was actually this powerful. And after the war for seizing the heavens, both sides were destined to engage in a battle to the death. Facing such a powerful opponent, just how should they fight? The experts from the Holy Lands who were originally certain that the opponent would not be able to reverse the situation were no longer as confident as before. Right at this time, June Moxie's shocking performance in the air had already come to an end. He stood in the middle of the millions of figures and smiled lightly. Then he took a step forward. This step was truly mystical. Or perhaps it was strange. Everyone could clearly feel that this step that June Moxie had taken, just a single step, had completely broken away from the millions of illusory figures around him. At this moment, he was himself, the heaven and earth were the heaven and earth, and the illusory figures were illusory figures. The 3 were no longer related, and had nothing to do with each other. Such a phenomenon, if it was in the Buddhists of his previous life, would be becoming a Buddha on the spot. A million nirvanas, rebirth in a single step. From then on, he would no longer be restricted to the heaven and earth. Not obstructed by people, not obstructed by objects, not obstructed by anything in the world. In the instant that Jun Moxi's step landed, the heavens and earth suddenly shook. Everyone could feel a tong sound as the heavens and earth shook. This vibration seemed to be incomparably powerful. But at the same time, everyone realized that the heavens and earth were still the same, and had not moved at all. The only thing that had moved was their own hearts. It was as if that mysterious and strange step that Jun Moxi had taken had stepped heavily into their own hearts. The world in his heart suddenly crumbled the moment he took a step out of the void. Completely collapsed. Completely collapsed. Following that, a clear and loud roar rang out. Jun Moxi's entire body began to slowly dance in the air again. Every single movement was so pleasing to the eye, but every single Saint Venerable expert could clearly feel that every single movement of Jun Moxi's contained an extreme level of attainment in the Tao. At the same time, a clear and melodious voice rang out. The sky is dusk, the moon is like the first, thousands of miles of rivers and rivers, let me fly. The singing stopped, and everyone looked around, inviting the moon to sleep together, in the depths of the green mountains. Who is the hero? It's none other than me, who has gone through countless hardships. Just to exchange your heart for the same, who is the hero? It's none other than me, all my hot blood, turning to dust and soil, just to have a look at you. Awakening from the dream, the road from which I came, the morning wind blows, whose flag is beating. Who is the hero? It's none other than me, who has gone through countless hardships. Just to exchange your heart for the same, all my hot blood, turning to dust and soil, just to have a look at you. Who is the hero? It's none other than me. Such a heroic voice reverberated in the sky. It was clear that there was only Jun Moxi's voice in the sky, but in the ears of everyone, they could actually hear countless accompaniments. It was not as if they could hear it, but they could really, truly hear it. This was a type of music that had never appeared in this world before. Even if the crowd did not know anything about music, they could not help but be intoxicated at this moment. As Jun Moxi's voice flowed, the strange phenomenon between heaven and earth became more obvious. When he sang "The sky is dusk, the moon is like the first," everyone simultaneously felt that the sky was dark and the moon had just risen. When he sang "Thousands of miles of rivers and rivers, let me fly," everyone could clearly see that thousands of miles of rivers and rivers were under their feet, but in the sky above the rivers and rivers, there was a person singing, like the wind or the fog. When he sang, inviting the moon to sleep with me, deep in the mountains, the moonlight that filled the sky suddenly flashed, as if it was pulled into the arms of Jun Moxi, who was in mid-air. This was a Jianghu melody full of tenderness. It was bleak and heroic, domineering and considerate, conceited and proud. It perfectly blended the endless hardships and the tenderness of a woman. The song was exciting and touching. As the song became louder, Jun Moxi's figure slowly moved in the sky. With every movement, countless phantoms suddenly disappeared, as if they were absorbed back into his body. Until the last sentence, the millions of phantoms all disappeared. Jun Moxi stood proudly in the air with his hands clasped behind his back. His eyes were affectionate and persistent, distant and ethereal. His sword-like eyebrows slightly raised, and he looked into the distance with a smile. Then, he turned around easily and took another step. As he took this step, his entire person suddenly disappeared without a trace. Today's only one update. This morning, I went to take a blood test, check my blood pressure, do an electrocardiogram, an ultrasound, paid the hospital deposit, and booked a bed. In the afternoon, I went to a haircut, and half of my hair was shaved off. I should have been hospitalized today, so I applied for leave to work one more night. I'm writing at full speed to prepare for the next few days. For the next 4 days, I'll be in the hospital. I'll set a fixed update, one update every day, at 8 o'clock at night. Maybe it won't be enough, please forgive me. Actually, it's just a lipoma, but the location is not very good. It's at the back of the neck, and it's said to be more troublesome. But there's no danger. It's just a pity that I've kept my beautiful hair for a long time, brothers, sisters, or I'll see you in at least 4 days. The song above is a song I like very much. Who will be the hero? If you're interested, you can search it and listen to it. It's very Jianghu, and also very tender. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.